Hello, my beautiful blossoms, blooms, and buds. I'm Rosebud Reads, and welcome to my book garden. Actually, welcome to my basement. It's kind of like my plushy garden at this point, but I'm having fun, and I hope you are too. Um, but yeah, welcome to the second Disabled Tyrant Beloved Pet Fish stream. Oh boy, if I'm already having pronunciation issues, this is going to be fun. Hello, Peacock Pages. How are you today? Also, you might hear kind of like the jiggling. Hi, Mars Rover. I've got a hot pad because just like how it is on TV, it's Shark Week for me. So, hot packs are helping. I'm doing pretty good. Just got some cramps. Other than that, we're doing pretty good. Got some stuff done today. I'm really looking forward to this set of chapters. The lovely week to be a lady. It's actually Shark Week on both Discovery Channel and for me. Yes. Auntie Flo's visiting is another one that some people say. What are some other phrases? I'm trying to think. Hi, Cookielicious. Always a fun time. Yeah. So fun. Although I will take it now because not the first week of August, but the second week, I'm going to a small convention one state over. So I potentially might be wearing white at that time. So I'm like, you do you. Get this over with. We'll be fine. No, but it's life. Better now than at con time. So much better now than at con time. And I don't have to bring anything for that just in case. It'd be like, I'm good. I'll just bring my little medicine bag because inevitably I'll get a headache sometime. But that is what it is. How's everybody else doing? Anything exciting happen between now and Tuesday or that you're looking forward to this weekend? I'm going to be playing in a Magic the Gathering tournament, and I haven't done that in like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And it's a space theme this time. Hello, Annika. How you doing? I hope you're doing well. Good luck. I'm gonna need it. There's like 6 or 7 new mechanics to the play, and I'm like, oh boy, I joined back in when it got infinitely more complicated. Woo! Oh, I'm sorry. That sounds awesome. Thank you. I'm gonna try my best. My friend, who I haven't seen in a couple months, was like, I'm doing a tournament. Do you want to come? And I was like, well, I have time, so yes. I guess I'll go. No. I hope the next couple weeks are better for you though, Annika. Actually, I think you live kind of nearby. Ever heard of Anime 414? If so, might see you. But we'll see. No, it's Wisconsin, actually. It popped up in my Instagram. So I might see you there. Because I think you live over in that area. Give it a look. It's a little bit of a drive for me, but I convinced one of my other friends to go. So it'll be a little fan journey. Yeah. Not bad prices for tickets, so I thought, why not? No, yeah, I enjoy cosplaying. I cosplay our Danmei boys. I do Wei Wuxian or Foxian from Burial Mounds. Always worth the drive if you have good company. Very much so. My friend also cosplays, so hers is more like Assyrian and nifty, and she also is doing Vi. I think she'll probably end up doing Vi for this coming convention, because the last convention we went to with that, she did not have her gauntlets, and she finally has them now, and they are actually functional. They move. They're not just one solid prop. So how much time goes into getting ready day of? So Vi is definitely an awesome cosplay. She did a great job even without the gauntlets, at one of the previous ones. For me, I usually give myself hour and a half. I don't usually wear makeup, so that's sometimes like a 15-20 minute process, just even like finding and organizing stuff, but I'll usually have it laid out night before, so it's a little easier. Might just be like 10-15, because usually what I wear is like just basic coverage, and then eyeliner and mascara. So I don't do a lot of contour, but the actual getting dressed, there's only one of mine that's like actually full kimonos, like it's a legit kimono, and it's 3 layers, and getting the obi to actually wrap correctly takes a bit. So that one takes me usually in 45 minutes to an hour to get into. Yeah, 6 hours is a lot. I mean, with steaming, sometimes that'll take 2 hours for all 3. Doing the wigs, and I need to go over and fix up the wigs that I have for sure. They are very scraggly. So yeah, I usually give myself kind of a window of like hour and a half. Yeah, no, I appreciate the fact that a lot of the wigs that I wear are the dudes that are just either in a ponytail, or they have like bangs and it pulled back a little bit, and then it's just straight. Like, and even then, I'm like, oh my god, what am I doing? For my Wei Wuxian one, after it started being scruffy, I ended up braiding it back with the red ribbon instead of just straight, because it had so many flyaways. So you adapt and you figure it out. For the Hua Chong one, I braided in a thicker ribbon, so it kind of pulled away from the fact that I kind of like massacred his bangs. So I was like, look at the shiny, it is so pretty. Look away. Jingle, 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 because the rest of me jingle, jingle, jingles with that one. And then the Shen Qing Chu one. I enjoy that one because I actually play up the fact that he's a millennial stuck in a distinguished ancient cultivator body. So I have a little system sign up on my head that's like OOC violation. And like maybe one of these little clip-in like panic signs. Yeah, hang on, let me grab a quick. Well, okay. So for Danmei cosplays, like there's a lot more layers, but like for my Wei Wuxian, the base of mine is actually just one piece kind of kimono dress. Like I literally just throw the dress on. I have kind of a bottom layer skirt thing that's literally got an elastic band, but nobody sees that, so it doesn't matter. And then I have my robe, and like a kimono belt that is actually mostly just the front because it looks best. Like, it's not an actual kimono obi. And I kind of tie it in the back. I found out a cheatsy doodle way with that one. You put like cosplay tape, so the little invisible tape that like you use to keep like socks up on your legs and such. You use that and then you stick it literally to yourself, because I have a little more curves than our boys do. So to keep it from rolling up or down, you just stick it on yourself. And you'd be amazed at how many things you can do with cardboard and glue. Because as a former Ruby Rose cosplayer, I'm looking at it now, and it's about 7 feet tall and about 6-7 inches wide. You do get very hot, yes. Thankfully, this time period allows for fans, so it makes it a bit easier. Let me grab my quick picture from one of my most recent cons. My friend actually helped me take pictures during one of them. I'm trying not to get my face out of it. I don't know how clear this is coming across. I can't tell. So that's my Wei Wuxian one. It doesn't look very clear to me. Let me see if I put it closer. Okay, so someone could see it clearly. And then this is the Shenxing Shu. So that one's pretty fun. They happen to have like a fancy screen at the convention, so I got some like fancy boy pictures for him. So that was fun. And then there's my friend wasn't at this con with me, but I was able to get some cool pictures. Ignore the restrooms in the background. Right? I really had to do the dramatic stance with him. This one's a closer image. But yeah. But you kind of, this was also the like nighttime one for they had a dance, so it's like you play with it, even if it's just like the wig and then something sassy with it. Like you play around. Oh, thank you. No, but one of the first cosplays I ever did was Ash Ketchum, and it was awful. But I literally cannibalized the red T-shirt to put it on like a blue hoodie I had, cut the sleeves off, and like glued on pockets, and then like cut the fingers off of gloves, and just because I was so excited to go to a convention. It was high school. Oh, thank you. I have so much fun doing it and meeting really cool people. And like the one that really got me into actually cosplaying was Ruby Rose, because like, one, I absolutely adore fairy tales. It's my thing. But also, like, she looked like me. Heck, her name was my name. So I was like, oh my gosh. Also, my friend and I were super into Red versus Blue, which Rooster Teeth made. So I was keeping an eye on it. It was like, oh my god, The soundtrack is amazing. Yeah. You know what? Here, I'll show you how into it I was. Okay. Okay. So this is Crescent Rose. This was the first big cosplay I ever did. And I doubled the pattern for it. So this was literally carried around by me for God knows how many conventions. But like, there's patterns and different things that you can do, and it's amazing what you can do with hot glue, cardboard, and a shop broom, because that's literally what this is a crap ton of hot glue, paint, dreams. Like, let me show you the front part of this. This is literally like 3 pounds of hot glue. But this, literally the first time I cosplayed with this, it was originally 2 pieces. And then after the bus, getting to the convention, it became 1 piece permanently because it got jammed. And I could not get it apart. But I made it so well, I was banging it against a pillar, trying to do it. And then for a convention I went to in Texas, because I had a friend in Texas, I made this. I don't know how many of you have ever played with perler beads, but this is literally entirely constructed out of perler beads. And I think I had moments of insanity building this, because you have to be insane to do this. It drove me crazy. It literally took me about a week solid of hours. And I decided I wanted to be thrifty and save money. So I was like, oh, I'll pick out all the red beads out of the perler beads I have. And it still wasn't enough. Oh my God. Had a great time with it, but it was definitely a moment of insanity. So like, it's something that people appreciate the creativity. Like, I thankfully found like a pattern. So I had at least a template for where to start size-wise and proportions with those. But like, there's so much out there that you can find to build. I mean, with 3D printing these days, like, it's amazing what people can do. Even with just Warbla or, gosh, what did we use? My nephew decided to go big or go home, and we ended up making him the Mandalorian armor, which drove myself and my sister insane. Mostly my sister, because she is not a cosplayer. And this was her first step into cosplay, and she said, never again. But we did it. Let me see if I have just a picture of him. There we go. So we did it. And that was not knowing what to do, how to work with Warbla or anything. And yeah, you don't have to cosplay. You can just go, people watch, enjoy the vibes. Like, I mean, one of the days I wasn't feeling great, so I literally just went in like a chill t-shirt and had a great time. A lot of the places also just have different events. Like, I mean, there's panels. That's hit or miss at cons, let's be real. Usually if you're going for Dealer's Hall, for cosplay viewing, cosplaying, a friend, the vibes, or Artist Alley is definitely where I hit up. But no, I totally agree, Mo Mars Rover. I suggest finding just even like a small con in your area. They're going on so constantly. It doesn't have to be a big one. But just go. Like, just do it. Like, and have some fun. I mean, I thankfully like got my start like through school. We had what was called Jam Club, Japanese anime, manga, and manhwa. So that's kind of where I got my foot in the door, was because then we were able to go as a group. We split off from there, but like it at least got your foot in the door. So maybe if you have like a friend that's either into it or just kind of like, hey, let's go do something different, give it a try. I am kind of feel like the ones by me are always so big, so it's a bit intimidating, but I need to try. Well, part of that's hard too, when it seems like there's only big ones around you, is then it's also more of a monetary commitment for cons. Like the one I'm going to, it's like $30. I mean, parking's going to eat me, but that's not bad. I know a lot of cons it's like 60 or something in that range, so a lot of people are like, whoa, that's a lot, which, I mean, yeah, it's a bit, but hopefully you'll find something, because they're so cool. Cons are so cool. People are usually like, you'll find one or two that are kind of like grumpy or just whatever, but you'll find like that with anybody. But mostly people are just so excited to be there, and it's such a great feeling. Like, you'll meet amazing people. Sorry for ranting for like 20 minutes on how much I love cosplay instead of fish book. I still haven't figured out how to make a timestamp here. Does anyone know how to make a timestamp? To where I actually start reading. How to timestamp in a... Let me just Google it real quick since we're already kind of off the rails. I write a time code. I don't know how to do that, but I will put a little comment. Actual fish reading starts at 23:30-ish. I will. Yeah, I can do that. I will write that down, actually. 23:30-ish. All right, now it's going to be like 24:30. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I do not own this book. I'm not Seven Seas Entertainment. I'm not sponsored. I just own the physical copy in front of me and my time, which I have had a fantastic time chatting with everybody. If anyone has cosplays, I would love to see them. If you want to like send them, I think I have a community page, or like to my Rosebud Reads on Blue Sky. I'd love to see them. But anyway, if you couldn't already tell, this is a very chill live stream. I will be chatting with the chat, and I will be making side comments. If that's not kind of what you enjoy, I'm sorry, but maybe stay around, so you might like it. I'm gonna change it back to 25 because there you go. And on that note, we'll do a little what happened before. So Prince Jing got called in by the emperor because of the beloved consort's cat. He disciplined it, and the consort was kind of irritated about it. So the emperor's like, dude, you really have to mess with the cat? Like, she's pretty upset about it. And then he's like, oh, you brought me soup? And Prince Jing's like, absolutely not, silently. And the emperor sees it's a live fish, and he's like, what's going on with this? And then gets really happy when Prince Jing is like, oh my gosh, you have a pet. It's a carp for soup, but it's a pet, and you're interacting with human emotion, and I'm very excited about this. That's great. Like, he's genuinely happy for him, which I think is really sweet. And he kind of starts playing with Liu in front of the emperor, and Liu's like, I mean, I'm a little embarrassed, but like at this point, the emperor had already forgotten why he had summoned the prince. A pet fish, he said with a twitch of his lips, sounding a little forced. Not bad. All the drama over pets in the imperial family's hilarious. Honestly, yeah. I'll take pet drama over people drama any day. Liu watched Prince Jing nod and felt like a little pony had trotted proudly across his heart. Although Wang Gong and even Liu himself had long since accepted that he was Prince Jing's pet, this was the first time the prince had acknowledged it himself. Did the prince bring him here for the sole purpose of announcing Liu as his pet in front of the emperor? What a high-profile and distinguished pet he was. Liu was floating on Cloud 9. The point of the main quest, Priceless Pet Fish, was for him to become Prince Jing's pet fish, after all. And now the prince had straight up announced he was his pet in front of the emperor. Didn't that mean the main quest was complete? But it was only that easy, buddy. But there was no prompt congratulating him on completing a task. Apparently, a concession from Prince Jing wasn't enough for this stupid system. He still had to press on until he succeeded at getting along with the prince. A eunuch rushed in, announcing that the noble consort and the second prince were outside requesting an audience. That was when the emperor remembered why he had summoned Prince Jing. He gave the prince a meaningful look, but he was so busy playing with his fish that he didn't react. The emperor sighed lightly. Let them in. Okay, so that's where we ended last time. And now we start at chapter 8. The fish is angry. Here, let me scooch this over a little. Liu was right next to Prince Jing. When he heard that the noble consort was coming, he wanted to take a look at her. Having already seen the emperor, who looked roughly the same as the description in the book, Liu also wanted to see what the woman who dared provoke a tyrant looked like. Except his current position was a little off to the side and his view was blocked. Liu kept swimming back and forth, straining to peek, but to no avail. Just when he was about to give up and resort to eavesdropping, Prince Jing, who had been observing him for a while, moved the bowl so that it faced the entrance to the palace perfectly. Liu was startled. A coincidence? Did the prince somehow notice him trying to look at the noble consort? Prince Jing had demonstrated a considerable aptitude for pet fish. And pet fish care so far. But there was no way he could be this attentive, right? Perhaps he just felt like moving the bowl. No big deal. Liu quickly convinced himself not to get caught up in pointless speculation. Since he had a clear view now, he was going to look his fill. Before long, a graceful woman draped in imperial robes walked into view, surrounded by attendants and servants and leading a tall youth. Noble Consort Chu's hair was heavy with pearls and jade. Crabapple blossoms in full bloom were embroidered around the hem of her light purple robes. With skin brighter than snow, she was beautiful beyond compare. It was obvious the noble consort knew how to take care of herself. If it wasn't for the tall second prince trailing behind her with eyes that looked rather like hers, it would have been very difficult to discern that she was already at least 30. I was about to say 40, and I was like, nope, that's a 30. Liu sighed dreamily. It was no wonder such a beauty was the most favored concubine in recent years. Okay, so they have a picture. Here we go. There they are. She is pretty. And he's there. According to the book, Noble Consort Chu was at the peak of her life at this point in the story. The Emperor had already privately let her know that he planned on making her son, the second prince, Mu Tianxiao, the crown prince. The Emperor, like many other emperors of the past, wished for his Dai son to inherit the throne. So a Dai son is a son born from the Dai wife. The Dai wife is considered the official wife of the man, even if he has multiple wives. Sons born to the Dai wife have higher status in the family than the Shu sons, born to other wives. In non-royal families, the eldest Dai son is usually the one who inherits the father's title. In the royal family, the eldest Dai son is usually the first one to be considered for the throne. Okay. The emperor, like many emperors of the past, wished for his Dai son to inherit the throne. Years ago, he had made his first son, Empress Xiaohuai's son, the crown prince, only for the boy to tragically pass away at age 7. The emperor and empress grieved for years until Empress Xiaohuai gave birth to the fourth prince. The emperor once again had thoughts of making him the crown prince, but unfortunately, the fourth prince was not blessed. He suffered a cold at 2 years old and unexpectedly passed away at an even younger age. One after another, Empress Xiaohuai suffered the loss of her sons. Despite how fragile her health had become, she was determined to give birth to the fifth prince, Prince Jing, regardless of how reckless it might be. But the heavens decided to play a cruel joke on the emperor and empress, and both of them received a great shock when they realized the youngest Dai son was born mute. So bad for her. She lost 2 sons. Like, no parent should outlive their children. Like, they should live for a long time, but that's hard. After Empress Xiaohuai passed away, the emperor felt his fate must not be aligned with his Dai sons, so he never mentioned making anyone the crown prince again. But now, after 20 years, there was finally some movement from the emperor, and noble consort Chu could not be more ecstatic. Gotta watch out for that before it's in writing. Although the emperor's favor towards her was as clear as day, he never showed any hint of granting her the title of empress. But so what? As long as her son, the second prince, was named crown prince and ascended the throne, it made no difference if she was empress or not. Oh, hello, Truffle85. How are you today? Oh yeah. No worries. We had about 20 minutes of chatting. Like 25. And I'm glad you're good. We literally started just a little bit ago. So The noble consort thought her suffering had finally come to an end. She even seemed to walk with a spring in her step. Once Lady Xue had greeted the emperor along with the second prince, the emperor asked her to approach. As he intended to pronounce the second prince as the crown prince, he had to afford her this respect. The noble consort smiled daintily and sat down next to the emperor. She glanced down at Prince Jing, her expression victorious. So what if he was the son of the empress? So what if he was born more noble than her son, the second prince? Prince Jing would still need to bow his head to the crown prince, the future emperor. She and the second prince shared a knowing smile, but Prince Jing hadn't made any indication that he had noticed. Prince Jing's gaze never strayed from the little carp. His finger was still submerged in the water, playing with the fish's smooth back every now and then. Li Yu was getting a little pissed off from all the touching. Hey, you're being too rough. Fish can't take it. Liu evaded his hand, glaring fiercely at Prince Jing. When Prince Jing found his fingers fishless, his dark, unblinking stare lingered pointedly on the little carp. The temperature in the air around them suddenly plummeted. Was the tyrant angry because Liu wouldn't let him squeeze him? Fine, whatever. Good fish didn't fight with humans, especially not their owners. He knew Prince Jing was probably upset at the sight of noble consort Xue sitting next to the emperor. What child would be happy seeing another woman take his mother's place? Lady Xue was full of smiles, but her smile held an edge of provocation. She was clearly showing off. Prince Jing was obviously in a bad mood. Liu decided. He had a good reason for using him as a stress ball. He leaned back in, nuzzling against Prince Jing's finger, hoping to make him feel better. I'll let you squish me, but don't be so rough, okay? Prince Jing pursed his lips at the way his fish was clearly trying to please him and continued to squeeze the fish's back. Oh, goodness. They're both ridiculous. Liu endured it in silence. If he felt that Prince Jing was truly being too rough and he couldn't take it anymore, he would dart to the side with a swing of his tail. But a little while later, he would always swim back, allowing Prince Jing to use him as an outlet for his anger. The little carp didn't seem to hate his touch, Prince Jing noted, but why did it keep shying away and then coming back? Was he handling the fish too harshly, he wondered? The prince's touch became gentler. Liu instantly felt better. Who knew having his back squeezed like this could feel this nice? It was even a little ticklish. Liu curled his tail around the prince's finger to show that he liked it. Prince Jing realized that this little carp wasn't that hard to understand after all. Fish and human were absorbed in their own little world. They didn't care how they might look to anyone else. Having already seen Prince Jing like this, the emperor watched the prince with the little carp with rapt attention. He never knew his cold-hearted and distant son could play with a fish. I'm sure a lot of people didn't know you could play with a fish. Meanwhile, noble consort Xue's smile was frozen on her face. Prince Jing had managed to humiliate her without saying a single word. What's the matter with Prince Jing? She asked, trying to get the emperor to notice the prince's rudeness. There was a smile warming the emperor's face as he said, Noble consort, Prince Jing has started caring for a fish recently. What do you think? Of course, Lady Xue didn't think it was any good at all. She had come here with a goal, and she wasn't going to sit back and watch a drab gray fish disrupt her plans. If the emperor was acting like this, he must have forgotten what she'd told him earlier and was feeling soft towards Prince Jing. But the noble consort had come prepared. She tossed a glance to one of her trusted servants waiting on the side. The servant immediately left, then quickly returned with a snowy white ball in her arms. Lady Chu delightedly hugged the snowy white ball to her chest and smoothed its fur. She said gently, "Has the Emperor forgotten that my Piaxu was seeing after seeing Prince Jing's fish?" "Soup fish first consort! Who will win this epic battle of the century?" Ding, ding, ding. By now, the Emperor also had remembered why he had summoned Prince Jing. He chuckled, rubbing his nose. The snowy white cat slowly raised its head and let out a meow. It was clearly conspiring with its owner. Liu, who had been playing with Prince Jing, heard the meow and was so alarmed that all his fins stood on end. Did Xianqing Palace also have a cat? Carefully, Liu swam to the surface of the water to see what was going on. And there it was, nestled in the noble consort's arms. The snow-white cat's sapphire eyes homed in on him immediately. That shape, that sound, wasn't that his greatest enemy? With a shudder, Liu immediately dove down to the bottom of the water, but it was too late. As soon as the large white cat laid eyes on him, it let out an excited yowl, scrambling out of the noble consort's arm and shot towards him like an arrow. "Ah, save me! The cat wants to eat fish!" He had thought that if he ever came face to face with his arch nemesis again, he'd be able to find some escape route. Or, if worst came to worst, he'd slap that cat in the face with his tail. It wasn't until he was in front of the cat for real that he realized its teeth had left a serious mark on his instincts. Just the memory of that bite was enough to make him tremble. Trapped in the bowl, Liu had nowhere to escape to, leaving him with no choice but to curl into a ball beneath Prince Jing's hand. He prayed the large white cat wouldn't see him, but he knew he was fooling himself. The cat wasted no time in pouncing, and it showed no fear of water as it opened its mouth to snap up the fish. Just as it seemed as though Liu was going to end up in the cat's mouth, Prince Jing held the curled-up little carp in his hand closer to him. The cat bit down on empty water. Meow. Confused, the white cat looked up and saw a face that it would never forget. Meow! Suddenly, the cat felt like all hope was lost. Prince Jing's face was as icy as frost. With a flick of his fingers, the white cat was flung off, barreling into the legs of the servant who had brought it. The servant let out a scream of pain. The impact left the white cat dizzy, but it managed to stand back up, shaking its head fiercely. It abandoned any thought of catching the fish and rushed straight back into the noble consort's arms. From his hiding place under Prince Jing's hand, Liu peeked out from the gaps between the prince's fingers. Prince Jing was rolling from laughter. Was rolling with laughter. What? Prince Jing was rolling with laughter. Really? As expected of his tyrant master, the white cat got what it had coming to it. Noble Consort Chu was secretly delighted at seeing Prince Jing raise a hand right in front of the Emperor. She bent down to pick up her white cat, which was still howling pitifully, and made a show of examining it. She pretended to be distressed as she scowled. "Piaxu, you terrible thing! Haven't you learned from last time? Why did you have to provoke Prince Jing? Do you not take me seriously?" All of Liu's happiness evaporated at her words. He was so furious that if he had a foot, he would have stomped it. While the noble consort seemed to be reprimanding her cat, in reality she was playing one of her little games. She was reminding the Emperor that this wasn't the first time Prince Jing had taught her beloved pet a lesson, and that he didn't treat her with the respect she deserved as the noble consort and as his Shu mother. After Lady Chu spoke, of course the second prince, Mu Tian Shao, piped up in support. My brother, the fifth prince, is just being a little mischievous. He didn't mean any harm. Royal father, mother, please don't blame him. Liu's eyes rolled back in his head. He blew out a huge bubble with a pop and turned his tail disdainfully towards the second prince. The second prince's voice was mild, but underneath that gentle veneer was a ruthless countenance, even more so than the noble consort. While the noble consort played her little games, the second prince was practically accepting Prince Jing's guilt for him by saying he had no ill intentions, as though afraid the emperor couldn't reach that conclusion on his own. Oh, hi! How you doing today, Esper lady? I hope you're doing well tonight. We're still relatively early in the reading. We kind of chatted at the beginning. So, welcome. I hope you enjoy. I'm glad you're doing great. This evil cannon fodder. Good. Despite knowing Prince Jing would eventually inherit the throne and Mu Tianshao and the noble consort would both meet grisly ends, Liu couldn't help but feel a little anxious. This mother-son duo was teaming up and taking advantage of the fact that Prince Jing couldn't speak, especially since Prince Jing didn't even have Wang Shi Gonggong with him this time. Prince Jing had saved him so many times now, Liu couldn't sit idly by and watch him be bullied. But what could he, a fish stuck in a bowl, do to the noble consort and her son, who were like the sun shining brightly in the middle of the sky? Liu was so indignant his cheeks puffed up. He started to swim in frustrated circles in his bowl. The noble consort and her son's actions had the desired effect. The emperor's expression darkened as he remembered the noble consort's tearful complaint from earlier. Prince Jing, I heard you threw her cat on her birthday. Is this true? On the day of her birthday, the noble consort had gone crying to the emperor that Prince Jing had hurled her precious pet Piaxu with his own two eyes. He was starting to believe noble consort Chu. Now that he had witnessed Prince Jing's treatment of Piaxu with his own two eyes, he was starting to believe noble consort Chu. Sorry, I missed a line. Not that the emperor had any affection for the cat. It was merely a pet. Who cared if Prince Jing wanted to hit or kill it? Privately, the emperor didn't think it was that much of a concern. But this situation involved the noble consort, who was, after all, Prince Jing's Shu mother. Behind her was the second prince, who was also the emperor's choice for crown prince. The emperor didn't want there to be any bad blood between Prince Jing and the future crown prince, which was why he had summoned Prince Jing in the first place. He wanted to get to the bottom of the situation and give the noble consort an explanation appropriate enough to appease her. But Prince Jing gave the noble consort a fleeting cold glance and made no move to explain. He continued to play with his little carp, eyes lowered. For some reason, though, this little fish's cheeks were puffed out. It was especially obvious when noble consort Chu spoke, almost as if he was angry. Prince Jing was rather amused. Could this fish see through the noble consort and her son's trickery, too? I love how we're kind of getting a little byplay between the two of them. That's fun. Chapter 9. The fish is belly up. Almost slipped up there. The fish is belly up. Prince Jing, the fish whisperer. Absolutely, Momar's rover. In the face of Prince Jing's clear indifference, the emperor felt a little awkward. Fifth brother, our royal father is asking you a question, Mu Tianshao reminded him with what might have been a smile. The second prince had always been a little wary around Prince Jing because of the difference in their statuses. Now that he was about to become the crown prince, though, he was going to take that all back. Prince Jing looked up, but not to acknowledge the second prince. Instead, he looked at the head eunuch, Luo Ruoshang. Luo Ruoshang had been prepared ever since the emperor had ordered Prince Jing to enter Xianqing, or Qianxing Palace alone. At Prince Jing's glance, Luo Gonggong ordered a few servants to bring the necessary ink and paper before him. It might be a bit inconvenient, but even if he couldn't speak, he could still write. Prince Jing accepted the brush with his right hand, his left still playing with the fish. He didn't even look at what he was doing. He just wrote a couple of strokes and tossed the brush away. Not daring to look at what the prince had written, Luo Ruoshang brought the prince's writing up to the emperor, his head lowered. When the emperor's gaze fell on the strong, powerful strokes that made up the vigorous characters, he couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness in his heart. But this was not the time to admire the prince's calligraphy. The only thing the prince had written was, "It deserved it." It deserved it. For as long as the emperor could remember, the prince had never once lied. This was the reason the emperor had decided to summon him, to question him directly. Yeah, it did. Back when Prince Jing had punched the other princes, he never tried to hide what he had done, so the emperor didn't think he would deceive him in this instance. Since the prince had said the cat had deserved it, then something must have happened that he didn't know about. He couldn't be too hasty. The emperor's expression darkened, and he looked toward head eunuch Luo. Luo Ruoshang, go find out who else saw what happened that day. Noble Consort Chu's face twisted, betraying her panic. She had spent so much time preparing for this moment, but now the emperor was doubting her just because of a couple of random words from Prince Jing. But as the noble consort dabbed at the corners of her mouth with the silk handkerchief embroidered with crabapple blossoms, her somewhat ferocious expression settled back into its beautiful facade. So what if the emperor investigated? There wasn't a shadow of a doubt that Prince Jing abused the cat. Not to mention, she even had an eyewitness. It would be good if Prince Jing admitted it, but it would be even better if he made a fuss and refused to confess. He's not ashamed, he'd say it point blank. Xiao Lingji was quickly brought over from the imperial kitchen. The emperor decided to carry out the questioning himself, since the matter involved his son, Prince Jing. Xiao Lingxi knelt there, his voice quivering as he recounted everything he saw that day. This servant saw, as soon as Prince Jing saw the noble consort's cat, he grabbed it, he finished. Of course, noble consort Chu was at least 2 steps ahead, having ordered her trusted servants to bribe Xiao Lingxi before she even came to stand before the emperor. She knew the witness would be on her side. Your Imperial Majesty, it seems I didn't misunderstand the situation. Shouldn't Prince Jing give me an explanation? She smiled. Prince Jing, do you have anything to say? Was this what all his questioning had come to? The emperor rubbed his brow. He was getting a little tired. A ruthless light flashed in Prince Jing's eyes. Noble consort Chu must have gotten her claws into Xiao Lingxi, distorting the truth. He originally wanted to request the emperor should summon a guard who had been working at the time for questioning. He doubted Xiao Lingxi was the only eyewitness in such a large palace. But after considering the matter further, he quickly lost all desire to do so. It didn't matter if there were eyewitnesses present that day or not. Each side would have their own version of what had happened. The situation wouldn't change. Why go through all the hassle? No, you'd be better off going straight for Xiao Lingxi's throat. It was unlikely this person would stick to his story under threat of having his throat sliced open. It would be the quickest and most effective way to force him to tell the truth. Don't do it! Liu was extremely worried. He had a pretty good guess as to what Prince Jing's next move would be, having read the original book. Prince Jing would be walking straight into the noble consort's trap if he got violent in front of the emperor, further souring his relationship with his royal father. But if he didn't resort to violence, what else could Prince Jing do? The noble consort had clearly come prepared. First, she had managed to convince the emperor to prevent Wang Shi from accompanying Prince Jing, effectively taking away the prince's voice. Now, she provided an eyewitness who was extremely unfavorable towards Prince Jing. The prince was out of options. Aside from Xiaoling Shi, the only ones who were present at the time were the cat and Liu. With Xiaoling Shi deep in the noble consort Chu's pocket, there was no way he'd speak the truth. Who was left to be Prince Jing's witness? The cat? Was there perhaps other evidence? Without realizing, Liu had drifted to the bottom of the bowl. He'd forgotten to even keep swimming, trying his hardest to remember how the white cat had run into Prince Jing. An image came to him. When he'd peeked at Prince Jing changing, he'd caught sight of what looked like a bruise on his leg. He'd been so embarrassed at the time that he didn't take a good look, and what he did see had been too brief. Besides, it wasn't out of the ordinary for a man to have some bumps and bruises on his body, so Liu didn't think much of it. But he remembered the bruise had been right on his shin, around the same height as that cat. Was that Piakshu's doing? It was possible. If it were true, then it would prove the cat had attacked Prince Jing, and he had just cause for punishing it. Liu felt a rush of excitement at the thought of being able to clear Prince Jing's name. But now came the hard part. How could he let the prince know about his epiphany? He couldn't speak, so he had to get inventive. Desperately, he concentrated all his energy on his tail and mustered up all the strength he had to swing it. His fish tail came smacking down, and with a splash, almost half the water in the bowl sloshed out. In the silent Xianxing palace, so quiet you could hear a pin drop, the sound of the water splashing onto the golden tiles was downright cacophonic. The emperor's eyes darted to the fish. Prince Jing, what is wrong with your fish? Invention is the mother of chaos. That it is, Truffle. Prince Jing, what is wrong with your fish? He asked, baffled. Prince Jing had been staring daggers at Xiaoling Shi. His glower was enough to convey his thoughts. You're a dead man. But at the little carp's sudden movement, he turned to look at the fish, where it waited expectantly for him. Closer, closer, now! A quick and accurate swish of his tail, and Liu splashed all the remaining water in the bowl at Prince Jing. Prince Jing had rolled up his sleeves to keep himself dry while he played with the fish, but in just a split second, his face, chest, and robes were completely soaked, with his pants as the biggest casualty. Prince Jing said nothing, but his expression was like a dark storm cloud as he wiped at the water dripping down his face. Liu zipped to the bottom of the bowl to hide, too terrified to look at Prince Jing. Sob, sob, sob. The tyrant looked ready to explode, but he had no other choice. Plus, he didn't know it would get this wet. Would the tyrant deal with him first, then Xiaoling Shi, before going to change his clothes? Prince Jing was reaching towards him. Liu squeezed his eyes shut. Was this tyrant about to kill a fish? But after waiting with bated breath, all Liu felt was a light tap on his head, followed by a touch on his back. He was dumbfounded. Prince Jing glared at the troublemaking little carp before getting up and bowing to the emperor. The emperor understood and said, "You may change quickly. We'll continue this once you return." Wang Shi had been standing just outside, waiting anxiously. As soon as he saw this window of opportunity, he rushed in with a set of dry clothes for Prince Jing and stepped into the side hall to help him change. Liu let out a sigh of relief. Thank goodness Prince Jing didn't lose his temper. He had intentionally splashed water on Prince Jing's pants in the hopes that the prince would see the bruise on his leg when he changed, and think to use it as proof. But it was fine, even if the prince never saw it, because Liu had still managed to buy the prince some time to cool down. In addition, now that Wang Shi was here, there was someone who could still protect and speak for the Prince Jing. Together, the prince and Wang Gonggong would be able to come up with a strategy to deal with the noble consort. If worse came to worse, they were forced to concede this particular conflict to the noble consort. The emperor would, at most, ask Prince Jing to apologize to her. He wouldn't actually punish the prince. It would leave the noble consort and her son feeling smug for a while, but Prince Jing could always get his revenge later. As he waited for Prince Jing to finish changing, Liu swished his tail happily at how well everything had played out. Lady Chu eyed the fish Prince Jing had brought. For years, she'd held a mix of hatred and envy for Prince Jing in her heart. Prince Jing might not be present in the room right now, but she was going to let him go unscathed. She stood up, sauntered over, and peered down with interest at the fish in the bowl. Something seemed to occur to her as she let out a light peal of laughter. Mu Tianxiao had followed her over. He chuckled. "Mother, what is this fish? I've never seen the likes of it before." He and his mother both had that kind of attitude to things they considered beneath them, so this really was the first time Wu Tianxiao had ever seen a live carp. The noble consort pursed her lips, then laughed daintily. "My son is of royal blood. How could you be expected to recognize such a crude thing? It's nothing but the most ordinary fish used for cooking." His lips twitched up into a smile. "My brother's taste is certainly quite unique. Perhaps I should ask our royal father to gift him some fish with a little more value." Snob. Their words of admiration were thinly veiled barbs aimed right at Prince Jing. Liu halted directly underneath the two of them, not even bothering to hide the fact that he was openly listening to them, utterly disgusted by their words. How dare they insult his owner and say he had no taste? That was the same as insulting him. They even had the audacity to say he was crude. Not even the emperor had gone that far. Liu flicked the water angrily. He had to do something. All of Lady Chu's attention was on the little carp as she came closer. She had never seen such a lively fish before. But of course, she could never have guessed that when it had splashed water all over Prince Jing just now, it had done it on purpose. After all, it was just an ordinary fish. But this fish had more guts than the noble consort could ever imagine. As she peered down at him, Liu was preparing himself to give her a face full of water. He had already drenched Prince Jing. There was no way he was going to show any mercy to cannon fodder. But as the noble consort approached, a flash of light caught Liu's eyes, and he noticed a golden phoenix hairpin by her forehead. Held delicately within the beak of the phoenix was a large, sparkling pearl about the size of a person's thumb. That's pretty big. Or thumbnail. It's a little less big, but still big. Liu felt his stomach drop. He had a bad feeling about this. That couldn't be the eponymous pearl from his side quest. Eponymous? That's a weird way to put it, but okay. Pearl from his side quest. Clear, bright pearl, right? The system, which had been silent for a long time, replied lightly. User, you got it right. Liu was stunned. Stupid system? Can you get any more annoying? How was a fish supposed to retrieve a pearl from the forehead of the Emperor's beloved concubine? Splashing her was out of the question for now. The noble consort was still a little too far away. He had to get her to come a little closer first. Liu readied his fishtail. He was going to strike back. For the pearl! For Prince Jing! As for how... The noble consort was very calculating in the book, which meant she was also very suspicious. An idea started to take form inside Liu's head. If you wanted to deal with these kinds of dirty tricks, you had to fight dirty too. How did a fish flip over again? Liu rolled around playfully, trying to rotate his belly up slowly. He floated in the water in that position without moving a muscle. It wasn't a comfortable position for a fish, but if he endured it for a little bit, he would definitely get results. The second prince was looking straight at the bowl while he spoke to noble consort Xue. He saw it clearly when, suddenly, Prince Jing's fish twitched strangely, then flipped over. Mother, what's wrong with the fish? He blurted out. Noble consort Xue, who was still basking in her smugness, glanced over, and her heart nearly stopped. Didn't fish flip over when they died? But this fish had been so lively just a second ago. Lady Xue hardly cared whether a fish lived or died, of course, but this was the fish Prince Jing had brought before the Emperor. The Emperor himself had been acquainted with it. But now the prince had left to change his clothes, and the two of them were the closest to the fish when it had suddenly died. Who would be able to explain this? Was this all part of Prince Jing's plan? She'd used Piakshu to cause problems for him, so he was using this fish to turn the tables on her? It was very possible. Otherwise, why would Prince Jing bring a fish to see the Emperor? He had been waiting for this exact moment. This conspiracy theory was growing more and more likely to noble consort Xue, who was well versed in back palace drama. As the fish floated belly up in front of her, she began to panic. I love how sassy and hilarious and convoluted all of their inner thoughts are. Everybody's. Chapter 10. Fish-Style Slap. Having been the favored concubine for several years, noble consort Xue knew the Emperor still had a soft spot for Prince Jing, which was why she harbored such great resentment for the prince. What if this incident brought the Emperor's anger down on her, and, in turn, on the second prince, just when he was on the verge of becoming the crown prince? Noble consort Xue refused to let herself and her son suffer through such a disaster, so she came up with what she felt was an ingenious idea. Shower, come, don't make a sound. Let's hide the fish, quickly. Mu Tianxiao was bewildered. Lady Xue didn't want other people to get involved. Qianqing Palace was not her territory, and the Emperor was right there on the throne. If she asked her trusted servants to deal with this, it would only serve to attract his attention. The fewer people who knew that Prince Jing's fish had died, the better. Noble consort Xue and the second prince neatly blocked the bowl from onlookers' curious eyes, quickly devising a plan. First, Lady Xue would hide the fish, then pretend to notice that the fish had vanished, triggering a search party ordered by the Emperor. While everyone was distracted, she would have time to furtively acquire another live fish. She would then have someone find it just at the right time and place. It would be a flawless switcheroo. I never thought to hear the word switcheroo used in an ancient time novel. It's not a cultivation one, but yeah, espionage, or is it fishpionage? I like that better, so we're going with fishpionage. Won't someone be able to tell? Wu Tianxiao was a little hesitant. His ascension to Crown Prince was tantalizingly close, and he didn't want anything to endanger it. What are you afraid of? Noble Consort Xue left coldly. A fish like this, it's just a soup ingredient. They all look the same. Prince Jing probably wouldn't even be able to tell the difference. I think not, fair madam. Noble Consort Xue was brimming with confidence, convinced her plan was foolproof. Otherwise, she wouldn't have dared to come up with something like this. What else was she supposed to do? Just wait around for Prince Jing to make her life difficult? I mean, when you put it that way. She took another glance at the flipped-over fish floating on the water. They had to hide the fish well, so that no one would be able to find it. That soup ingredient is going to eat your lunch, madam. The best place would be inside her sleeves. No one would dare search the noble consort. Suppressing the urge to hurl, Lady Chu reached for the fish using her handkerchief. Just as she was about to touch the fish, though, the very tip of its tail, which had originally been motionless, started to shake. Then it started struggling. Noble Consort Chu and the second prince jumped. Stunned, Mu Tianxiao asked, Mother, wasn't the fish supposed to be dead? How could a fish come back to life? This was way too bizarre. Noble Consort Xue didn't have time to speculate any further, nor did she have time to respond to the second prince. She'd wrapped the fish up in her handkerchief, but it was still very slippery. And now it was squirming around quite hard. If she let it slip out of her hand and fall onto the floor here in Qiansheng Palace, right in front of the Emperor, she'd already taken the first step. There was no turning back now. Sweat continued to bead on the noble consort's forehead. This woman had lived in the lap of luxury for a long time now, so she didn't have much grip strength. Furthermore, she was dealing with Li Yu, an expert at struggling. This time, he went all out. With his newly stronger tail, it didn't take much for him to escape from her grasp. This was the closest the little carp was ever going to get to Lady Chu. By now, Li Yu had a lot of experience swinging his tail around. He calculated the distance and made a clean swing. His original plan was to jump onto the noble consort and give her a good scare. Then, in the ensuing chaos, he'd snatch the pearl. If that didn't work and he ended up on the floor, he could just swing his tail a couple more times to try to get back into the bowl. The bowl was very close by. Being away from the water for such a short amount of time shouldn't be a problem. And besides, he had all the fresh water stored in his inventory. But unfortunately, he used too much force. With one flip, he'd managed to set a whole new record, landing smack dab in the middle of the noble consort's face. Oh. Noble Consort Xue's vision was suddenly obscured by something cold and slippery. Prince Jing's fish had thrown itself onto her face. She screeched in terror. Ah! Her scream instantly lit a fire under Liu. This was, after all, the first time he had ended up on someone's body, or face, as a fish. Yep, fish slap iconic. His tail flapped furiously in alarm, slapping the noble consort's face over and over again. The second prince didn't even know how to react. The flurry of slapping noises finally jolted him out of it, though, and he yelled in a panic, Mother! Mother! Someone, come quickly! Save my mother! Zhao, get it off! It's on my face! It's on my face! All the shocked and terrified Lady Chu could see were wet gray scales. She couldn't stop screaming. Mu Tianxiao wanted to help, but his hand froze in midair, too afraid this fish would fly onto him next. Who knew what might happen? Slap was super effective. That it was, Truffle. In the chaos, Liu found a suitable position on the noble consort's face and swished his tail once again, aiming for the glistening white pearl. Defeated by a fish, the shame. This time, he took careful command of his strength to slap the golden hairpin with pinpoint accuracy. Bingo! The pearl fell from the hairpin onto the floor, just like he planned. Noble consort Xue had put a bit of thought into choosing her hairpin, hoping to entice the emperor even when night fell with this priceless luminous pearl. But now she was panicking too hard to fret about her hair accessories. Liu flapped his fins a few times, straining to reach that fallen pearl. But it was no use. That pearl was standing between him and turning back into a human, and it was about to fall onto the golden bricks. It was all or nothing. Liu flung himself towards the jewel. Meanwhile, the emperor had been enjoying his tea while he waited for Prince Jing when he suddenly heard the noble consort and the second prince shouting and yelling. The emperor rushed over, along with head eunuch Luo, to see what had happened, only to find the noble consort with her hair in disarray, face paper white. Her hands were flailing about, clawing at nothing, while the second prince stood off to the side in uncertainty. The emperor didn't see Liu. Of course he wouldn't notice a little carp on the ground chasing after the pearl when the consort and her son were making such a fuss. What is going on? Demanded the emperor, furious. Liu couldn't reach the luminous pearl. As it hit the floor and rolled away, he made a lunge for it, but it was too late. Just as he was about to reach the pearl, a pair of hands materialized from above and pressed down on his little fish body. Who was getting in the way of him completing his quest? Incensed and indignant, Liu glared up and straight at Prince Jing's face. Liu could see anger shimmering beneath the surface. Fuck. Here he was, flopping around, high off adrenaline at the prospect of completing his quest, only to get caught red-handed by the tyrant. I left the room for 5 minutes. Liu blew a listless bubble. He wanted to hide and flat out deny everything, but he was in Prince Jing's palm. There was nowhere to hide. Had Prince Jing seen him slap noble consort Xue and steal the pearl? He had to be in big trouble with the prince. But he wasn't playing around for no reason. Noble consort Xue was definitely going to report Liu to the emperor for what he had just did, but so long as he returned to the bowl before the emperor noticed him, there was no way the emperor would believe her. After all, how could a fish jump out of the bowl, humiliate Lady Xue, and then jump back in? Right. He needed to get back. It felt awful to be out of the water. He had to figure out a way to return to the bowl without Prince Jing noticing, but that was way harder than tricking Lady Xue had been. Prince Jing was no fool. Liu had to be careful. While Liu was still racking his fish brains for ideas, Prince Jing slipped him gently back into the water. Liu was shocked and relieved to find himself surrounded by water in his bowl again. Wow! The tyrant actually put him back. He wiggled a bit to demonstrate his affection, but Prince Jing glared at him again. The little carp could clearly read the threat in the tyrant's eyes. I'll deal with you later. Liu shrunk back. Wait, is that why he didn't get mad earlier? He was saving it for later? He didn't want to be fish soup, and he didn't want to die either. So Liu decided he might as well let the tyrant pinch him a few more times. He arched his back into Prince Jing's hand in an effort to wiggle his way back into the prince's good graces. Surely letting Prince Jing get a few squeezes in would get him out of trouble. Prince Jing stared, unimpressed. Your Imperial Majesty, please believe me. I don't know why Prince Jing's fish just leaped onto my face. Lady Chu was still in shock as she knelt in front of the Emperor, weeping. She loathed Prince Jing with all her heart, so much that she wished for his death. Did she fall into his trap? Had Prince Jing acquired a fish with the ability to resurrect itself for the sole purpose of embarrassing her in front of the Emperor? I love this book so much. This terrifying ordeal had noble consort Chu shocked out of her wits. She felt like everyone and everything was out to get her. The Emperor rubbed his temples and looked over at Prince Jing, faintly confused. Prince Jing scoffed and gestured at the bowl, placed not too far away, with his chin. He'd made sure no one was paying attention when he put the little carp back in. This book is so good. I love this series so much. I truly do. Since noble consort Chu had bribed people to slander him, he'd give her a taste of her own medicine. Let her have a turn at being unable to explain herself. Prince Jing took another glance at the intriguing little carp that had managed to create this situation for him. What divine fortune. The Emperor ordered Luo Ruoshang to investigate the scene, only to be informed that Prince Jing's fish was happily swimming in its bowl. This time, the Emperor was irate. The noble consort is telling a bald-faced lie. Prince Jing's fish is clearly still in its bowl. Lady Chu felt all the blood rush to her head. Fury and anxiety saturated her voice. Your Majesty, it's true! That fish flew out just now! The Emperor's brows furrowed. So you're saying a fish can fly? And not only can fly, but it flew out, harassed you, and then somehow flew back? There are actually fish that can kind of like hover. I don't know what they're called, but if I remember, I'll look it up at the end of the stream. They're kind of cool. At this point, the fish was like a trigger for noble consort Chu. She nodded furiously. That's exactly it! Xiao'er saw it too! Noble consort, have you gone mad? The Emperor sighed, disbelief written all over his face. Lady Chu had seemed fine before, but all of a sudden she was kicking up a fuss, spewing all sorts of foolishness. Sorry. A fish that could fly? How was that possible? If she hadn't gone mad, why else would she talk such nonsense, and even mess up her own hair? If you want to make up ridiculous stories, then so be it. But do you have to try to drag Xiao'er down with you? Mu Tian Shao had opened his mouth to corroborate his mother's account, but on hearing the Emperor's words, he shut it again. Noble consort Chu kept shooting him pointed looks, but since the Emperor didn't believe her, the Emperor would only become more upset if he insisted on backing her up. What was the point of playing the hero for a fleeting moment? It's your mother, dude. That's the point. Mu Tianshao would give up anything for the position of crown prince. In a sensible tone, he said, Royal father, you're right. I did not see it clearly. Mu Tianshao guiltily avoided his mother's look of disbelief. He was about to become the crown prince. Was it wrong to have some self-preservation? Yeah, that's your mom. I forgot how much I hated the second. Yeah, it's one of those where it's like, she is literally doing everything for you, dude. The least you could do is, like, acknowledge what just happened. But no, you decided to cover your own butt. Not cool. The Emperor said unhappily, Noble consort, even Tian Shao agrees. What do you have to say for yourself? All the princes, other than, besides Prince Jing, kind of suck. Yeah, I mean, I think I remember there were some younger ones. Like, if I remember correctly, there's like two younger ones that are kind of like not involved in like the court trial. Yeah, the youngest two are all right, but they're just kids. Like they're kind of just too young ish to be involved in the more political drama that's happening right now between the main characters. But yeah. Lady Chu bit her cherry lips. Your Imperial Majesty, I forgot myself and misspoke. Please, forgive me. Even her own son had turned his back on her, so what else could she say? She'd had a momentary lapse in judgment. It didn't matter how much she complained. It was useless if the Emperor didn't believe her. The best thing for her now to do was to keep her head down and wait for the Emperor's anger to dissipate. There was no need to fight with a stupid fish. Right at the moment that Lady Chu admitted her fully, Prince Jing's boot stepped on an embroidered handkerchief. Wang Shi, who had been following behind Prince Jing, rushed forward and picked the handkerchief up. Wang Shi shook the handkerchief out to check who it belonged to and let out a shocked exclamation. Wang Shi, what is your issue? Groaned the Emperor, whose head was beginning to hurt from all these things happening, one after another. Wang Shi said, Your Imperial Majesty, this servant just picked up the noble consort's handkerchief. But why does it have fish scales on it? As he spoke, Wang Shi raised the handkerchief so that everyone could see. A handkerchief embroidered with crabapple flowers. Even the Emperor knew it belonged to the noble consort. And just as Wang Shi said, there were a few fish scales still stuck to it. Why would the noble consort's handkerchief have fish scales on it? There was only one fish in all of Qianxing Palace. The Emperor just wants a nap at this point. I mean, I would too. There's drama between the cat and the prince, and now the fish and the empress, and the cat and the fish. Like, it's pretty ridiculous. And he doesn't even know that the fish actually slapped her after pretending to be dead. Like, he's missing a whole subplot of this thing. And that's part of what makes it funny, is he's this exasperated and doesn't even know the whole plot. Prince Jing's fierce eyes flashed over to the noble consort, his gaze as sharp as a knife. Wang Shi immediately spoke for the prince. Fish scales are part of the fish. They don't fall off for no reason. Did the noble consort do something to our master fish while our prince wasn't here? It's so hilarious. Yeah. No, it really is. As expected of Prince Jing's spokesperson, a powerful attack from Wang Gongong. Liu was delighted. But when did he become a master? He was just a fish. A master? The Emperor was speechless. Wang Shi beamed as he explained, Your Imperial Majesty, this servant heard this from Shaoling Shi first. Shaoling Shi called the noble consort's cat Master Cat. It's only logical for His Highness's fish to be Master Fish. As the master of the world, the Emperor was everyone's master. Was the noble consort trying to put the cat and the Emperor on the same level by calling it master? Ooh, she got called out. Nonsense. Do not call them that in the future, the Emperor glared at Lady Chu. Noble consort Chu, what did you do to Prince Jing's fish? Why are there fish scales on your handkerchief? There was no way the noble consort was going to admit she had used the handkerchief to pick the fish up. She hadn't realized it at first, but the moment she walked over to look at the fish, the tables had been turning against her. This fish definitely had it out for her. She barely even had time to do anything to it. The fish was clearly the one who was tormenting her. Noble Consort Chu sobbed. Your Imperial Majesty! Why don't you ask Prince Jing? He's the one who bullied my Piakshu first. Your Imperial Majesty! Throwing everything to the wind, Wang Shi fell to his knees and declared loudly, People are always taking advantage of His Highness's inability to speak in order to frame him. As you know, his injuries take a long time to heal. It's been true since he was young. All the Imperial physicians know this. When His Highness was changing just now, this servant noticed a large bruise on his leg. Its position matches the body shape of that cat. That day, the noble consort's cat ran into His Highness first. That's why His Highness taught it a lesson. This servant implores your Imperial Majesty to believe His Highness. How hard did that cat have to hit him to bruise like that? Because, not only bruise like that, but leave, a cat-shaped impression. Is its face just, on his leg? That would honestly be kind of hilarious if you just had, a cat-shaped bruise on your leg. And, yeah. Have to be a lot of force, yeah. It's so ridiculous. Yeah, it would be like Looney Tunes. Yeah. A bruise from the cat? Noble Consort Chu's pupils constricted. Why hadn't she thought of such a flaw in her plan? The Emperor was very upset to hear that Prince Jing had been injured, and he immediately called for an imperial physician to treat his injuries. Once the doctor confirmed that there really was a bruise, the Emperor was no longer able to contain his ire. It's just a cat. How dare it injure a prince? It seems he was right. It really did deserve it. If the cat was the one who ran into Prince Jing, Xiaolongxi must have lied. A quick investigation uncovered the truth. He had been bribed by the noble consort. Qianxing Palace was a bloodbath. The flames of the Emperor's temper surged to a fierce blaze. He hadn't announced the crown prince yet, and noble consort Chu was already out for Prince Jing's blood. When she became Empress Dowager in the future, would Prince Jing make it out alive? The Emperor confined Lady Chu to her palace, where she was banned from coming out without a summons. Originally, he'd been planning to promote her to Imperial Noble Consort soon after her birthday, but he really didn't feel like it anymore. The Noble Consort really messed up with this one. That she did. She was like, I added it all together and then realized I am really bad at math. And an imperial noble consort is only one rank below the empress, and as a sign of respect, when there is an empress, there usually is an imperial noble consort. When the position of empress is empty and someone gets promoted to imperial noble consort, it is a signal that they hold the same authority as that of the empress and may be promoted to empress soon. Okay. Even looking at the future crown prince, the second prince, put him in a foul mood. Lady Chu could have never predicted that her carefully planned scheme would be thwarted in the end by a mere fish. Liu had really gone above and beyond this time. It was rowdy out there in the palace, and listening to the kerfuffle was making him sleepy. Thinking there was still a couple of pieces of food left at the bottom of the bowl, Liu managed to pull himself together enough to swim over and eat the fish food. Just as he was about to doze off, he was hit with a feeling that he had forgotten something. Wait! The clear bright pearl! He had almost forgotten! Liu immediately flew up to the surface, scanning his surroundings. There it was! The pearl was sitting all by its lonesome in a corner of the palace. No one had realized the noble consort's hair ornament was missing a luminous pearl. Liu was itching to go for it. All he had to do was sneak out and grab the pearl. Even a touch would be good. Perhaps that would be enough for a quest complete. But just then, Wang Shi strolled over, all smiles, grabbed his bowl, and headed outside. What? It turned out the emperor was still reprimanding Lady Chu. Prince Jing didn't have the patience to listen any longer, so he got up to leave. The little carp that had accompanied him to meet the emperor obviously had to leave with him too. Hey, are you kidding me? I haven't grabbed the pearl! Wang Shi was only a few steps away from leaving the palace, bowl in hand, when he saw the little carp leaning against the rim of the bowl. It seemed to be staring longingly in a particular direction. Wang Shi nearly laughed out loud. He shook his head. He must be imagining things. I feel like Liu got used to being a fish a bit too quick, considering he managed to forget his chance at being human so fast. He really is very fish-coated, honestly. He's like, oh, I'm hungry. Oh, look, food. Oh, now I'm tired. He really does kind of just accept it really quickly, like, well, guess this is my life now. You know, it could be worse. I have food. I seem to be getting along with my owner. I think I'll take a nap. As he watched the pearl get further and further away from him, his chances of completing the mission dwindling, Liu felt himself deflate. Right next to him, Prince Jing noticed that the little carp looked listless. He considered for a moment and then ordered a servant to go and take a look. Before long, the servant came back holding a pearl. Prince Jing recognized the luminous pearl. It was the same one the noble consort wore on her head. He was very sure this was what the little carp had been looking at, because when he emerged from the side hall after changing, he saw the little carp flopping after it. It wanted the jewel that badly. Master, please give me the pearl. An invigorated Liu swam over. He shimmied cutely, trying to cozy up to the prince by swimming in circles around his hand. It was obvious Liu was trying to kiss up to him. Did the fish think waggling cutely a few times would get him the pearl? It wouldn't be that easy. Prince Jing still had a bone to pick with him. With a faint smile, Prince Jing slipped the pearl into his sleeve. Ugh. All right. This is no longer warm, so we're going to scooch it over. Okay. I'm going to take some water this time. My throat, I can hear myself starting to get crackly. Actually, on that note, I should blow my nose because I'm starting to get nasally. Hydrate and caffeinate. Chapter 11. The fish made a mistake. Liu followed Prince Jing and his servants back to Jingtai Hall. He made countless attempts to endear himself to the prince on the way there, but Prince Jing, who had been tapping him on the head back in Xianxing Palace, didn't react at all. He even tucked away the luminous pearl. Liu was a little frustrated. Yep, I think a lot of people will. Didn't he at least deserve some credit for inconveniencing noble consort Chu? Was it that hard to let him hold the pearl for a bit? It wasn't like he was going to monopolize it. He only needed it to complete his quest. After the quest was finished, he'd be done with it. But there was no need to get himself too worked up. Perhaps it was just a coincidence that Prince Jing had taken the pearl. Communication between a fish and a mute prince was too difficult. Liu switched tactics and started swimming in circles around the bowl. Perhaps, by mimicking the shape of a pearl, he could give Prince Jing a hint. But the prince kept on acting like he couldn't see him. Little thing, what are you trying to do? Wang Shi chuckled. Wang Gong Gong had resolved to take good care of this fish from now on. Although it was just an ordinary edible carp, this little creature had brought Prince Jing a substantial amount of good luck. It had splashed the prince with water, but that had allowed them to discover the bruise from Piaxu, which in turn was what helped them get one over on the noble consort. Wang Shi had looked down on Xiaoling Shi for calling Piaxu Master Cat, but now he was all too eager to eat his words and call the fish Master, too. Liu stiffened at Wang Shi's question. How could he make these people understand that all he wanted was the pearl? He didn't want anything else. Should he swim in the shape of the word pearl? No, probably not. If he really did manage to write something, he might scare Wang Shi witless. Worse yet, what if Wang Shi mistook him for a fish spirit? Cultivation had been banned ever since the founding of the PRC. What is the PRC? Something Republic of China, maybe? May the heavens have mercy. He was just an innocent transmigrated fish. People's Republic of China. Okay. Thank you. He'd better come up with something else. They actually banned it? Like, I mean, I get why, but... Huh. That's my fun fact for the day. Wang Shi carried the large bowl to the room that the little carp had been in before. Liu watched as the prince moved farther and farther away. Hey, wasn't he supposed to live with the tyrant? But after thinking about it some more, Liu realized he hadn't actually seen a bed or anything to sleep on. The prince had only entered that room to change. It obviously wasn't his bedroom. In ancient times, a concubine's favor with the emperor could apparently be determined by how far away she lived from him. It was probably the same for pets. They did ban most religions. I'm not sure cultivation was specifically banned since it's half fictional. That's fair. Thanks, Truffle. But a pet that didn't live with its owner practically wasn't a pet at all. Liu could see it now. He was going to fail all his quests, and there was only one way that led. Fish bones and fish ash. He couldn't be separated from Prince Jing. Liu had been looking kind of wilted, but now he was all full of energy again. Living was way more important than some bright, shiny pearl. He still had to get along with Prince Jing. Since Wan Shi had asked him what he wanted, Liu was going to show him. He bravely poked his head out of the water to look in Prince Jing's direction, his gaze bright and gleaming. Wang Shi was so happy he couldn't close his mouth. Oh, this little thing can't bear to part from His Highness. He wants to stay with him. Liu was incredibly flustered at being called little thing again, but desperate times called for desperate measures. He blew a bubble. That's somewhat difficult, little thing. Wang Shi must have been in a surprisingly good mood because he actually gave the fish an explanation. His Highness doesn't like others in his room. but he's not others. Liu was baffled. This was the first time Liu had heard of his tyrant owner having a pet peeve like that. This bit of characterization probably wasn't in the book. The prince in the book was just made up of rows of cold and lifeless text, but the Prince Jing before him was an actual living, breathing person. And Liu knew that people were multifaceted and much more complicated than words on a page could describe. At least he realizes that early, which I really appreciate about his character. A lot of these novels, you see them being like, "Oh, it's just a novel. This doesn't matter." Like, but no, in this one, they're like, "No, it does. It very much so does." Liu could accept this new information. Prince Jing didn't like others entering his room. Fair enough. But he wasn't just anyone. He was his pet fish. Liu continued waggling his tail at Wang Shi. He really needed to go. It took Shen Xingshou so long. Oh my god. Yeah. No, he was kind of who I was thinking of at that moment. Yep. Wang Shi couldn't help smiling. Sometimes he felt like this little carp was very intelligent and a bit clingy. Who didn't like a clingy pet? He wanted to help the little carp. He liked fish. Fish were quiet. They didn't get in the way, no matter where you put them. They were more or less a decorative piece. But it turned out he didn't need to convince Prince Jing, for the prince had already taken the bowl from him, a dark expression on his face. Oh my gosh, they're all so ridiculous. I love them. Wang Gonggong was getting the sense that the prince wasn't in the greatest of moods. Not for the first time, he found himself thinking that he really couldn't understand Prince Jing. Prince Jing carried the little carp to the forbidden bedroom, where no outsiders were permitted to enter. He had given the fish the cold shoulder all the way back from Qianxing Palace, but now it dared to wag its tail at Wang Shi. Ooh, somewhat jelly. Prince Jing hadn't been standing too far away when the fish was playing with Wang Shi. His gaze, as he watched them, could have frozen the entire room. It was a very peculiar feeling, like when he was young and Mu Tianxiao had stolen something that belonged to him. It had made him very unhappy, and only seizing it back made him feel a little better. He had already said so in front of the emperor. The fish was now his. He should be the one to decide where it lived. He didn't need anyone else to intervene. Accordingly, he took the fish away to his room and told nobody to bother him. Wang Shi would never be able to imagine the inner workings of Prince Jing's mind. In order to please his master, Wang Gonggong hastily ordered some servants to bring over the porcelain fish tank from the first room. He was worried about Prince Jing's lack of pet fish knowledge, too, so he also summoned a few servants who had experience taking care of fish, cats, and dogs, just in case. After everything was settled and he had been moved back into his porcelain fish tank, Liu did a lap around the tank. Someone had already changed the water, and the leaf blanket and bed of white rocks were still waiting for him, untouched. This was truly the best place. It was much nicer to swim in here than in the bowl. Somehow, he realized he had gotten used to thinking about things from a fish's perspective. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Was it a good or bad thing that he adapted to all this so quickly? Like, even he's questioning himself. He's like, this is a little too fast for me to feel this comfortable with this situation. After dawdling for a while and making sure nobody was paying attention to him, he ducked under the leaf blanket, pretending to rest, and entered the system. Xylian. Yeah. After dawdling, the last time Liu had done this, he had been bursting with joy, excited to receive his prize. It was a very different story this time around. He was deflated and gloomy. He had made little to no progress in either the main quest or side quests. The fish scamming system greeted him as usual, but didn't provide him with any extra hints. Half of the allotted time for the getting along step in the priceless pet fish quest had already slipped by. Seeing the Emperor hadn't helped him make any progress either. It was obvious he had to work a little harder. I kind of forgot that. He is on a 3-day time limit to befriend Prince Jing, or getting along with Prince Jing. So he has 3 days to do that, or be turned into fishbone and ash. It was a shame he couldn't complete Clear Bite Pearl. Maybe he should give it another try. It was just within reach. Yeah, it was kind of like more focused in on the imperial drama, and then it was like, oh yeah, you're also fighting for your life right now, buddy. Yep, poorly you. Even he, I think, kind of forgot about it. Like, he was like, gotta get the pearl. Gotta get the pearl. Oh yeah, I'm potentially about to die. Gotta get the pearl. Maybe he should give it another try. It was just within reach. Either way, Liu thought he was already in Prince Jing's room. He was supposed to be his pet. He needed to have a little less shame about it. You haven't really seemed to be ashamed of being a fish, let's be real. He definitely forgot. He was too busy having a fishy time. He definitely was. He needed to have a little less shame about it. It wouldn't be all that weird for him to wiggle his way into his owner's clothes and just so happen to accidentally pull out a pearl or something. Right? It would be very weird. Time was of the essence. Resolving to leave his shame behind, Liu entered the system. While he was inside the system, he couldn't tell what was happening in the outside world. Now that he was out again, he shook himself and came to the abrupt realization that he was lying in the tyrant's hand. Liu nearly jumped out of his skin. Prince Jing cupped his hands, holding the fish so that it was still surrounded by water. He had never observed the fish up close before. I forgot about this. Yeah. I love that he decides to throw caution in himself to the wind. Yeah, he really doesn't have much self-preservation, in all honesty. As soon as the little carp settled down, he couldn't resist taking a look. It was a strange fish, he thought, but it was also intriguing. When he had first picked the fish up, he noticed it was completely stiff, unmoving. His brow twitched, and he immediately called over a servant who had raised fish before. After examining the fish for a few minutes, they concluded it was likely asleep. Prince Jing then called over another servant for a second opinion, and this one said the exact same thing. After roughly 10 minutes, Prince Jing dismissed all of them and continued staring at the fish alone. If it was asleep, then it would eventually wake up. He wanted to see what other tricks this fish had up its sleeve. Phrasing. The little carp didn't sleep for long. Prince Jing was so close that he saw the fish tail twitch a little. Then, without warning, the fish jolted forward, nearly falling over in the water. Not for the first time, Prince Jing thought that the fish had the same dazed kind of look as a person who had just woken up. But as soon as the fish saw him, it seemed sluggish. Prince Jing was slightly annoyed and tapped on the little carp's head. Why had it been so lively in front of Wang Shi, but seemed wooden and slow with him? Jelly boy. The tap made Liu shake his head, remembering the task at hand. He started to wiggle his tail in his attempt to wheedle his way into the prince's favor. Ever since he had become a pet fish, swishing his tail and begging for pity was the only other survival skills he had outside of swimming. Except his owner didn't appreciate it. Prince Jing scoffed, his expression cold. Trying to kiss up to him now? Too late. His palm was only so big, and it was impossible for the fish to keep wiggling like that without touching his hand. The feeling of the fishtail against his palm was a little odd, but Prince Jing refused to let it show. Liu took no notice. He was still trying to act cute, but his eyes kept trailing over to Prince Jing's clothing. The prince had put the luminous pearl in his sleeve, he remembered. If you could sneak into the prince's sleeve. Prince Jing being jealous is priceless. Even at this stage, yeah. Oh, wait, he was in Prince Jing's hand right now. He could pretend that fish were very slippery. Liu swam to the edge of the prince's palm, deliberately slowly. He just needed to turn his body and flip over. But, well, he managed to do exactly that. As soon as his body left the confines of his palm, Prince Jing caught him with the other hand and put him back. He was stunned. I'll flip again. Again! He tried twisting from the other side, but Prince Jing was faster. With his hands carefully cupped, he was able to hold him completely. Liu was pissed. Prince Jing peered down at him. He almost looked like he was smiling. He was doing it on purpose. Did he hide the pearl just to toy with him? Liu's mind spun. He thought smugly. Then how about this? He didn't fight against the prince. Instead, following the line down Prince Jing's palm and arm, Liu slid down. Prince Jing froze. At first, he thought the fish had been making a break for it, but he absolutely did not expect it to try to wiggle into his sleeve. Aided by the water in Prince Jing's hand, that little fish slid down his arm, managing to slip right into his sleeve in the blink of an eye. I love that Liu's go-to approach is simply yeeting himself. It really does seem to be. He's like, well, I gotta work with what I got, and what I got is a tail. So here goes nothing. Woo! Prince Jing, normally as sturdy as an ice-capped mountain, felt goosebumps erupting all over his skin. He furrowed his brows tightly. Meanwhile, Liu, who had successfully managed to infiltrate enemy territory, found himself stuck to a large patch of muscle. What was this feeling? Did Prince Jing not wear an inner robe? Liu lay against this unknown muscle, his face blazing. In his original world, he was but an innocent boy who had been single his entire life. Now that he had transmigrated into a book, he was suddenly touching skin to skin with another man. He was so embarrassed. It's that wiggling for affection. Very much so. Liu was so flustered he wanted to cover his face with his fins, but they were too short. With no other way to unleash his emotions, he resorted to fiercely flapping his tail instead. Prince Jing, who had been bearing with all these bizarre sensations, felt something scratching at him nonstop. How could anyone put up with this? Prince Jing was about to break out in a cold sweat. He quickly untied his clothes, wanting to pull the troublesome fish out. Inside his sleeve, Liu was getting more and more annoyed. The sleeve was narrow and dark. If he moved around, he would slide further down, unable to stop. If he opened his eyes, the fabric would stab into them. Filled with regret over his impulsive decision, Liu was desperate to leave. In a fit of distress, he thrashed around even more wildly, but his struggles only increased Prince Jing's discomfort. As he flailed about, though, Liu spotted a faint glow. Dizzily, he wondered why there would be light in Prince Jing's clothes. Could it be the clear, bright pearl? How sneaky. Prince Jing may have stuffed the pearl deep into his sleeve, but that couldn't fool Liu. Victory was just one step ahead. He could do it. Liu fought hard to move towards the light. He'd come this far already. Nothing could stop him now. No matter what, he had to touch it first. As he shuffled closer to the light, he thought he could see a hazy round thing. Oh, pearls were round! Liu opened his mouth wide and went for it. The moment his fish jaws closed around the round thing, Liu was overcome with emotion. Terrified the pearl might roll away from him, he clamped down hard. Liu felt Prince Jing flinch violently. The next moment, his dark surroundings brightened. All the clothing that had been in the way was now gone, and he could see Prince Jing, his upper half completely bare, with a rare hint of pink on his cheeks. He scowled down at Liu, irate. Yeah. Oh no, as per lady says. Yeah. With the luminous pearl in his mouth, the little carp couldn't blow bubbles, so he opted to wave his tail happily at his owner instead. Which was when he realized he was lying entirely on the prince's chest. Hold on. How did he get from the sleeve to here? Keeping his death grip on the pearl, Liu scoured his surroundings. All he could see was a landscape of pale skin. Especially here where the pearl was, he could feel the prince's pulse within his chest. Wait. Liu finally noticed something was wrong. Did Prince Jing hang the pearl around his neck? It was the noble consort's pearl. Did he have to go so far? The make and the model of the pearl was not quite right either. The texture felt a little soft. Liu arrived at a horrifying conclusion. Trembling, he opened his mouth and reluctantly looked at the luminous pearl he had just held within his mouth. That wasn't a pearl. Not at all. That was the thing used to differentiate between the front and back of a man. The fish suffered a devastating blow. The fish suffered a devastating blow. Liu realizing he messed up. Oh, yes, he did. The little carp collapsed, dropping down from Prince Jing's chest, but Prince Jing, with his lightning-fast reflexes, managed to catch him. Just then, Wang Shi pushed open the door. He had wanted to ask Prince Jing a question, but he had waited some time, and the prince never came out of his room. Left without another choice, Wang Shi came in to take a look, only to be faced with Prince Jing in a state of undress, face flushed pink, and fish in hand. Wang Shi was shocked. Who knew what Wang Gonggong, experienced and knowledge in all his worldly wisdom, was thinking about when he came upon the scene? He was so aghast, his voice even changed. Your Highness, you can't! The fish is too small! It won't be able to take it! This entire day had just been an never-ending stream of embarrassments. God, please just let this fish die. Wow, what a beautiful description. The poor guy walking in on this. I will now proceed to pleasure myself with this fish. Oh my God. I'm so tempted to put that description on my posts page of... Here's a summary of the last episode. Or stream. Oh. But I agree. Poor Wang Gonggong. He's just like, Prince, no! Considering all the chaos, Wang Shi adapts pretty well. He really does. In the book, he is definitely one of the MVPs for all the things he puts up with and his ability to just vibe with Prince Jing. Chapter 12. The fish wants to apologize. I bet he does. Liu knew he had screwed up big time. There was no question about it. Prince Jing must be furious. Not only had Liu splashed water on him and caused a huge ruckus in Qianxing Palace when Prince Jing wasn't there, now Liu had gone and felt him up too. Liu's ancestors must be protecting him. It was the only way he could explain why the prince hadn't killed him then and there. He couldn't remember how he went from Prince Jing's hand back to the fish tank, nor could he recall swimming back to his bed of white rocks. Normally, fish fell asleep in the blink of an eye, but Liu had spent half the night tossing and turning and hadn't slept a wink. Again, I'm not surprised. But the moonlight outside the window shone into the porcelain fish tank, making the bottom of the water sparkle and shine. Liu felt his mood lift a little at the sight. Thinking about what he had gone through, he felt even more humiliated. No matter how shameless he was, that was it for him. There was no way he was going to attempt to complete Clear Bright Pearl again. He should just give up on the side quest and focus on the main quest. He was sure that there would be other opportunities for him to transform back into a human in the future. Oops. Oh my goodness. Come on. Having finally convinced himself, he decided to put all his energy into figuring out how to get along with Prince Jing. But this whole mess had scared him pretty badly. Whenever he saw Prince Jing, he felt uncomfortable all over, as though he could still feel the softness in his mouth. His fishtail felt like it had been roasted over an open fire, the heat spreading quickly through his entire body. How could he be so foolish as to confuse a pearl with that? Liu buried his head under his leaf blanket in a huff. If he was this miserable, Prince Jing probably wasn't much better. Liu knew that if he was in Prince Jing's royal shoes and he had been bitten there by a fish, he'd never hear the end of it for as long as he lived. I'm not sure who should be more embarrassed, the prince or Liu. Absolutely. And he just had to do this to himself right after he insisted on staying in Prince Jing's room. They couldn't get away from each other anymore. There was nowhere for him to find an antidote for his regret. Without really meaning to, Liu started avoiding Prince Jing. When the prince passed by, Liu either had his tail turned to him, or he was hiding motionlessly under his blanket, pretending to be asleep. He only acted cute for food when Wang Shi came to see him. Wang Shi would feed him a plethora of red-colored food, but for some reason his gaze would always be tinged with pity. He would whisper, "Little thing, you've suffered a lot. Eat more and grow fat." Oh, Wang Shi. Oh, Wang Shi. I feel bad for Wang Shi. That's who I feel bad for. But it was dangerous for a fish to fatten up. The little carp started to grow wary. Did Prince Jing want to turn him into fish soup? Thank goodness Wang Shi still used a ruyi to nudge him into swimming a few laps after each meal. So a ruyi is a decorative Chinese scepter. Its name means "as you desire" and is a symbol of good fortune. So I think I saw this before, and it's kind of cool looking, so I'm going to show you a quick picture of it. So these are ruyi. They look pretty cool. Okay. At first, Liu didn't understand why he did it, but he soon learned from Wang Gonggong's chatter that fish weren't supposed to eat too much, and he was pushing Liu to swim around so he could digest better. Perhaps it was because he had followed the taciturn Prince Jing for many years, but Wang Shi never seemed to run out of things to say. When he stood before his master, Wang Shi had to carefully consider his words before he spoke. But he had no such qualms when it came to the little carp. The image of a hand came to mind, making Liu pause. The fingers were pinched together, gently pushing him to swim around. He'd gorged himself back then, too. So Prince Jing had been helping him digest that time. But because he couldn't speak, and because of his personality, Prince Jing didn't reveal it to anyone. As grateful as Liu felt, his guilt just continued to grow. He knew Prince Jing was good to him, and yet he had taken advantage of him. It had been a misunderstanding, an accident, but he knew he was still at fault. A bit wrung out, the little carp wondered if he and Prince Jing would be able to go back to how they were before. Was he going to have to continue avoiding the prince, never complete his quests, and eventually turn into fish bones and fish ash? Liu couldn't accept his life ending for such an outrageous reason. He needed to pull himself together. He wanted to complete his task happily with Prince Jing and not have to hide whenever he heard the prince's footsteps. He should try to apologize. Misunderstanding or not, he was still the one in the wrong. As long as he apologized, even if an apology from a fish meant nothing to the prince, he could at least turn over a new page and face Prince Jing like normal. But the problem was, how was he going to do it? He had already spun in circles and danced the seaweed dance plenty of times, so that wouldn't be worth anything. He couldn't write, leaving him no way for him to communicate in a human language. He couldn't even prepare a proper gift. The porcelain fish tank he lived in, the bed, and the blanket, none of those belonged to him. How could he show he was truly sorry? Liu swam a lap in the tank, troubled. Then his gaze fell upon a lone piece of fish food. It was a chunk of fish food Wang Shi had thrown to him not too long ago, but Liu hadn't touched it because he didn't have much of an appetite. But since it was given to him, it now belonged to him. He could give this to Prince Jing to demonstrate his sincerity. Liu picked up the food and hid it. Worried it might not be enough, he hid a couple more until he had 6 pieces, an auspicious number. Prince Jing was rarely in his room during the day. He usually only came by at night. Once night fell and the lamps had been lit, Liu figured it was about time. He picked out the pieces of fish food and laid them out carefully. Happiness expanded his chest. He waited for Prince Jing to return. Happiness expanding his chest, he waited for Prince Jing to return. So what if I bit my owner there? I'm just a fish. You could forgive me, right? Tonight, however, unbeknownst to Liu, Prince Jing had something to take care of and had returned to his manor outside of the palace. Liu waited until he couldn't stay up any longer, but Prince Jing never came back that night. Prince Jing hurried back to Jingtai Hall bright and early the next day, the morning dew clinging to the bottom of his boots. Wang Shi led a group of servants to help him change. At the first opportunity, Prince Jing shot a glance at the porcelain fish tank. Ever since the little carp bit him, Prince Jing felt like the fish had been a little listless. Yeah, Liu doesn't seem to have much of a grasp of what is normal fish behavior. He really doesn't. Which makes it even better because when he's trying to be inconspicuous, he really isn't. He's so not subtle. Moreover, this listlessness was directed at him personally and no one else. The fish would swish its tail when Wang Shi was over there, but as soon as Prince Jing walked over, the only thing he had seen was a clump of water plants. Prince Jing was a little irritated. Wasn't he the one who had been bitten? How dare this fish ignore him when he hadn't even done anything yet? He's really quite bad at it. Yeah, he is. Prince Jing wasn't a very laid-back person. He couldn't stop thinking about it. He needed to set things straight between him and the fish and establish some rules. While he wouldn't be so cruel as to deprive his own fish of food and water, Prince Jing still wanted the fish to suffer a little hardship, so he'd think twice about getting too rowdy and making more trouble for him. He had already written the rules down one by one, and all that was left to do was have Wang Shi implement them. One of them was that he was going to seal the pearl from Qianxing Palace in a clear jar, then put the jar in the fish tank. Prince Jing knew how badly the little carp wanted the pearl, but he wasn't going to just hand it over. Making it look at what it couldn't touch would build character. That way, it would come to understand that one couldn't have everything one wanted in life. Prince Jing also doesn't seem to understand normal fish behavior. They're both kind of idiots in the sense, like, they're not necessarily dumb in other ways, but in this, they are so dumb, and I kind of love them for it. Your Highness, do you think the little thing will understand what you mean by this? To be fair, Prince Jing has never had a pet before. That is true. Like, he really hasn't, and it shows. It definitely shows. Wang Shi really wanted to tell the prince that the little thing was just a fish. A fish definitely wouldn't be able to understand such profound principles. Unfortunately, he didn't have any power to talk Prince Jing out of it. Prince Jing was adamant. He nodded solemnly. It must be done. Wang Shi sighed. He couldn't go against his master's wishes. He went to prepare. After changing, Prince Jing strolled to the fish tank. The little carp wasn't hiding anymore, nor was it on its white stone bed. Instead, it had fallen asleep in front of a neat line of fish food. For a moment, he thought someone was abusing the fish to the point that it had started to store food. Wang Shi is the only sane one. Fair. I see it. The little carp woke up soon after. He peered around and noticed the fish food had remained untouched. He looked up, and when he met Prince Jing's eyes, he started to spin happily in circles. No. Liu shook his head. He almost forgot himself and started to dance the seaweed dance. Liu tried his best to lower his head in the water. His fins were too short for him to clasp his hands in front of him to bow, so he gave up on the gesture and instead brought each piece of fish food before Prince Jing, lowering his head each time. Prince Jing wasn't quite sure how to react. Wang Shi was shocked. Your Highness, what is this little thing doing? Prince Jing looked from the row of food to the little carp's constantly bobbing head. He watched for a while, thinking. Was the little carp asking forgiveness, trying to kiss up to him, or something else? Regardless of the reason, the fish seemed to want him to eat. But humans couldn't eat fish food, obviously. The corner of Prince Jing's lips twitched at the fish's absurd ideas. Seeing that the prince was deep in thought, Wang Shi didn't dare make a sound. But the servant Wang Shi had sent off before to carry out the prince's orders had returned, so Wang Shi timidly interrupted. Your Highness, the luminous pearl has been put into the bottle at your request. Wang Shi had to call out to Prince Jing several times before the prince pulled himself out of his reverie. In Wang Shi's hand was the little bottle with the luminous pearl. Originally, Prince Jing had signaled to Wang Shi that he would punish the little carp by placing the pearl, trapped inside the bottle, into the fish tank himself. The bottle was very secure, and the opening had been sealed with wax. There was no way a fish would be able to open it. But at the sight of the fish blowing bubbles at him, Prince Jing hesitated. He stopped Wang Shi. Wang Shi didn't understand what was happening, but Prince Jing had already grabbed the little bottle from him. The bottle, clutched in his hand, hovered just above the fish tank. The luminous pearl's glow was dazzling, even from inside the bottle. Its glimmer filled up the whole fish tank, and Liu's attention was drawn to it instantly. There was no doubt that that was the clear, bright pearl he had been yearning for. Was he dreaming? What was going on? He'd completely given up on that side quest, but now the prince was bringing out the pearl? Liu was haunted by the memory of what had happened the last time he was too impulsive, and he didn't dare make any sudden movements. He sat obediently in his tank, his tail quivering in anticipation. What was the prince doing? It couldn't be what he thought of and was thinking of, right? The youth standing before the fish tank silently opened the bottle and dumped the pearl straight into the tank. One couldn't have everything they wanted in life, but as long as someone held him sincerely in their heart, he would take care of them, even if it was just a fish. Liu watched the luminous pearl fall in slow motion, like a dazzling meteor shooting by. He let out a cheer, his tail flinging him high into the air, and caught the pearl. I love how doting Prince Jing, stoically doting, all serious man doting Liu. Sorry, my ear is really itchy for some reason. Their dynamic is very cute. I agree. Chapter 13. The fish wants to fight for love. Clear, bright pearl. Success. The long-awaited sound of the system's chime was like the heavens singing down on him. Liu was so happy he could float, but since he was right in front of Prince Jing, he had to restrain himself. He couldn't just enter the system and abandon Prince Jing. As soon as the quest was complete, Liu had no further use for the luminous pearl. He was struggling to hold on to it and wanted to put it down, but Prince Jing and Wang Shi were both gathered at the porcelain tank, gazes burning as they stared down at him. He felt like if he dared to abandon the pearl now, the tyrant might stab him to death with his eyeballs. Prince Jing must have given Liu the pearl because he thought he really liked it, right? Liu couldn't just get rid of the pearl after he had made such an effort to apologize. He had to make it seem like he adored it, but his mouth was really sore from holding it. He thought it over some more, and then he set the pearl down at the bottom of the tank and nudged it shyly with his mouth. The round pearl rolled forward a bit before coming to a stop. Liu continued to use his mouth to prod at it, pushing the pearl quite a long way around the tank. Might as well pretend it's a soccer ball, Liu thought to himself as he played gleefully. Your Highness, look! The little thing loves the pearl you gave it. It's rolling it around. Just moments ago, the little carp had been jumping around happily and even caught the shining pearl from its owner's hand. Wang Shi couldn't be more excited. Except this pearl that was being rolled around the tank could fetch quite the price. Wang Shi couldn't help feeling a little sorry for the noble consort. At least he kind of acknowledges that they basically just stole this from her. But she was also trying to scheme against them, so, not too much sympathy about it. As the little carp chased and played around with the luminous pearl, the cool, clear light made the silvery gray of the fish gleam. It was a rare and breathtaking sight. Prince Jing smiled lightly. The little fish really did want the pearl. Liu rolled the pearl until he had pushed it into a corner. Pretending he was tired, he lay down on the white rock bed and entered the system. Sure enough, he was immediately met with the reward prompt for finishing the side quest. Suppressing his excitement, Liu carefully read through the instructions for the transformation medicine. He was just about to confirm and accept when a light bulb flashed above. A light bulb went off in his head, and he realized something. The bottle that held the medicine looked rustic and was carved with images he had never seen before. Might not look very big, but where was he, a fish, supposed to store it if he accepted it right now? Was he supposed to let it float in the water in his inventory? What a cursed image. After considering his options, Liu asked the system, "Will the medicine disappear if I don't accept it right away?" The system replied, "No. Rewards from the completed quests will be held indefinitely." Liu nodded, satisfied. "Very good. Then I'll just leave the prize for now and use it when the time comes." The system said nothing. Liu felt like he had just discovered a whole new world. The inadequate size of his inventory wasn't going to stop him from using such a clever method to store the things he didn't need right now. He was always being tricked by the system. It felt good to outsmart it once in a while. When he had first heard about the transformation medicine, he'd been ecstatic. But having spent more time thinking on it, he couldn't just use it willy-nilly. Liu didn't exist in the original book, and if he suddenly appeared in his human form, it might create additional chaos that he didn't need or want. Plus, there was also the issue of being able to maintain his human form for only 2 hours. Everything had to be planned out in advance. It was important he think about the timing and purpose of his transformation. He also had to find a suitable getaway plan on the off chance he turned back into a fish in front of everyone. That would be no good either. He could worry later. The medicine was in his hands now. Liu cheerfully closed the quest, Clear Bright Pearl. He checked the main quest again and immediately deflated. The time left for getting along was still counting down, reminding him that he had less than a day before the time was up. If he couldn't complete the main quest, it didn't matter if he had the medicine. He wouldn't even get a chance to use it. We're already at this point, and the fish scamming system still won't give me a single hint. Don't you have a conscience? The system has no conscience, the system agreed. Please have some patience while completing your quest. He always knew this thing was heartless. That's actually kind of funny. Like, it would suck if that was you, but it's kind of funny that the system's like, "You're right, I am a soulless, unthinking, unfeeling being." Thank you for noticing. Liu exited. Night had fallen, dark and quiet, but the luminous pearl was still emitting its soft, faint glow, lighting up the porcelain tank as if it were daytime. Liu covered the luminous pearl with the leaf blanket to block out its light, and then he yawned and fell asleep, leaning against the pearl. It's no wonder Liu thinks the system is the worst. Yeah. Liu awoke to the smell of ink. The row of fish food he had saved to give Prince Jing was close by. Prince Jing hadn't touched his gift. It'd be such a waste if his gift was left sitting so long it went bad. Looked like it was up to Liu to take care of it himself. After eating, he thought of the main quest that was now doomed to fail. Was he just supposed to float there and watch the time trickle away? No way. He was going to check on what Prince Jing was doing, then take matters into his own hands and force them to have some sort of interaction. Throwing something against the wall and hoping it stuck was better than just not throwing anything at all. Liu could hear Prince Jing moving around in the room, but the porcelain tank was a little too tall. If the prince didn't walk over, it was very difficult to see him. Liu quietly gathered his strength in his tail. Now very familiar with his tail and practically an expert at jumping out of the tank, he wanted to take it to the next level and try a new, never-before-attempted trick. Instead of only stealing a brief glance before inevitably falling back down to the bottom, Liu would grab onto the side of the tank and lean against it. Holding on to the edge would require body-fin coordination. He wasn't sure he'd be able to do it. Prince Jing, who was writing at his desk, heard a noise and saw the little carp come leaping out with a swish of its tail. Prince Jing had seen the carp wave its tail a few times, so he wasn't surprised. Although the emperor hadn't believed noble consort Xue when she insisted the carp was able to fly, Prince Jing didn't doubt it. He knew his fish could fly in its own way. But he wasn't about to speak up for the noble consort. Seeing the fish prepared to jump again, Prince Jing relaxed. It would fall down soon enough. But Prince Jing waited for a while, and the fish didn't fall. Instead, it smacked into the edge of the tank. It flapped its tail and fins furiously, but slowly started to slide down again. And then, splash. Undeterred, the little carp jumped up again without hesitation. Prince Jing watched, bemused. At this point, he had a pretty good guess as to what the fish was trying to do. The second time the little carp fell back into the tank after another bout of flailing, he reached over and lifted the fish up just the right moment. This time, it was Liu's turn to be confused. The little carp had been absorbed in waging a great battle against the fish tank when he suddenly felt weightless and was picked up. He looked up. Who else could it be but Prince Jing? Liu curled up his tail happily around Prince Jing's finger. Master, you've come to help me! Prince Jing coughed lightly while holding the fish. His fingers felt a bit ticklish. He moved without thinking and didn't think to find something to put the fish into beforehand. Concerned about the little fish being out of water for too long, Prince Jing gently put the fish in a clear tea bowl. Made out of white jade and wrapped in a hint of green, the tea bowl was shaped like flower petals and was just big enough for a fish. Prince Jing poured some fresh water into the tea bowl. It was very shallow, so as soon as the little carp was in the tea bowl, it could look up with ease to see its surroundings. Although he was still living in Prince Jing's rooms, a fish's field of vision from the inside of a tank was very limited. He could hear the sounds of people coming and going every day, but he had never seen what the room looked like. In this new position, he was suddenly able to. Liu was a little disappointed. Compared to the exquisite luxury of Qianqing Palace, Prince Jing's room looked rather shabby. After surveying his surroundings, though, his conclusion was that the room suited the tyrant's cold disposition, reserved, simple, and mature. Prince Jing evidently only kept the essentials, as there was a pitiful lack of interior decor. It was almost like a snow cave. No matter, Liu thought. The entire reason he was here was to turn the tyrant's personality around. Perhaps he could bring some warmth to the snow cave. Oh, you do, my friend. You definitely do. Next to the tea bowl was a brush and ink. After Prince Jing set Liu down, he sat down and picked up the brush. So he was going to write or draw. Liu remembered the ink he had smelled earlier and swished his tail excitedly. He knew quite a lot about this subject. He could give the prince some ideas. Whenever the little carp felt joyful, its tail would lift high into the air. Prince Jing shot him a warning look, and Liu immediately put his tail down. He was definitely going to be sent back to his tank if he accidentally got the prince's calligraphy or painting wet. The little carp settled on staring quietly but ardently. Prince Jing considered, then smoothed out the paper. With a few quick strokes, he outlined a vivid, lifelike fish. Liu peered over. That head, that body, that tail. Wow! Prince Jing was drawing him. Liu was so thrilled someone was willing to draw a portrait of him that every time he looked at Prince Jing, he felt delighted all over again. Maybe Liu should put in a little effort too. Perhaps he should try modeling for Prince Jing since he was the prince's muse. After some solemn deliberation, the little carp twisted in the tea bowl in what he thought was a truly majestic pose. In reality, it was just a very curvy S. Prince Jing smiled. The little fish was quite sharp. Keeping his eyes on the fish, he added a few more strokes. Although neither of them spoke, there was an air of amicability as the human and fish enjoyed each other's company. Draw me like one of your French fish. Pretty much, Tra. It's fun how well they communicate considering neither one of them speak. It's one of my favorite parts of the book, that they really do understand each other as much as they can. I mean, there's some points of misunderstanding, but there isn't any relationship. Your Highness! Your Highness! Wang Shi came in to report, drenched in sweat. His Imperial Majesty's gifts have arrived. Prince Jing set down his brush and moved the painting to the side to dry. Just before he headed out to accept the gifts, he glanced back and saw that the little carp was swaying its tail, its face turned to the painting, as though it wanted to try. Prince Jing's eyelid twitched. He turned around and grabbed the tea bowl with the fish in it. He didn't want to find a few new tail imprints on the painting when he returned. Liu was bewildered to find himself suddenly whisked away. The news of noble consort Chu trying to frame Prince Jing had already traveled to every corner of the palace. If this had happened a couple of years ago, the emperor would have never allowed the matter to pass so easily. But since he already had plans for the second prince to be crown prince, he had to consider the second prince's reputation. In the end, the emperor treated Mu Tianshao with coldly for a few days, but his choice for crown prince remained the same. While the emperor had, indeed, punished the noble consort, he had to put in some effort to comfort Prince Jing as well, so as was evidenced by the long list of gifts. Without batting an eye, he shoved all sorts of priceless treasures at the prince as though they cost nothing. Yeah, I agree. One of them was especially unique, a pair of koi that had been gifted to the emperor by a foreign country. There were only a few pairs of these fish in the world. The emperor had given gifts to Prince Jing before too, but the prince had always been a difficult person to please. He had no need for gold or silver and no interest in beauties. Every time he had to decide on a gift for Prince Jing, it gave him a headache. Now that he'd discovered Prince Jing actually had interests, the emperor waved his brush so enthusiastically it was like he'd been injected with steroids. If the prince liked fish, then he would give him more fish. A huge smile split head eunuch Luo's face as he directed servants to deliver a 3 or 4 foot long fish tank into Jingtai Hall. This tank was truly rare, as it was carved from completely transparent crystal. Inside the tank were 2 koi, one red and one gold, both hand-picked by the emperor himself. They had clearly been taken care of extremely well, because both of them were huge. When they swam together, their colors flowed like rays of light. It was quite a sight to behold. That sounds really pretty, honestly. Liu was currently in Wang Gonggong's hands, munching on the food that Wang Gonggong had sprinkled into his bowl, but upon seeing that the emperor had shoved a few more fish at Prince Jing, Liu's jaw dropped in shock. A piece of food floated away. In this day and age, did even fish have to compete for love? With his intelligence, how could he stoop so low as to fight with other fish? But he had quests he had to complete. If the prince no longer cared for him, who was Liu going to complete his tasks with? No, he had to fight. Liu observed carefully, resolved to guard Prince Jing the way a hen looked after her eggs. If any other fish tried to seduce Prince Jing, he would chase them away. The little carp secretly began readying himself for battle. But after Prince Jing took his time to admire the crystal fish tank with the rare koi inside, he ultimately didn't accept them. Prince Jing was not swayed. To Liu's relief and delight, the pretty koi had failed to tempt him. And of course, when Wang Gong brought him back to his room and saw that his porcelain fish tank had been replaced with the huge crystal fish tank that had originally held the koi, Liu was even happier. So he was like, no, don't want the fish, but I'll take the box. That's hilarious. I mean, it kind of worked. Chapter 14. The fish wants revenge on society. I mean, don't we all? Liu had switched to a completely new dwelling. The new fish tank was several times larger than the old one, and it was sculpted from a solid piece of crystal. Such a large piece of crystal was a rare find in ancient times, and these kinds of treasures were reserved for the royal family. But to Liu, who had come from modern times, crystal like this wasn't particularly uncommon. Yeah, great chapter name. I agree. This is one of my... I like it. I enjoy how every single chapter is the fish. Because it's kind of ridiculous, which very much fits the theme. He was used to seeing large, transparent fish tanks everywhere, so Liu had no concept of the price of his new residence. And no one would think to ever point this out to a fish. All the little carp knew was Prince Jing had moved his familiar white rock bed into the new tank, using the exact same kind of stone to expand his sleeping area. The water plants were moved in as well. Not a single leaf was missing. Prince Jing had also added an ornamental mountain for him to play in, with part of the mountainside made to resemble a lounge chair. Oh, that's hilarious. I didn't realize that the first time. He made him a lounge chair. When Liu lay on it, there was room for him to move around, and he wiggled a few times to express his enjoyment. Lady Chu's luminous pearl had been placed in the corner of his new tank. Perhaps Prince Jing was worried he'd get bored with just the one pearl, because the prince gave him plenty of other jewels in different colors and sizes. Yep, Prince Jing really does make fish his whole personality, doesn't he? He very much so does. He's like, this is my thing now, and everything will be this thing. I have found something that I love and enjoy, and I will cherish it and make it the best thing ever. This is my thing now. Liu, as he should. Liu didn't know how expensive the crystal was, so of course he wouldn't be able to tell that all of these other balls were made from precious gems. The craftsmanship in ancient times wasn't sophisticated enough to cut the gems perfectly. Most of the time, gems were only carved for the purpose of being inlaid into decorations, and so the gem's natural beauty and shine wasn't as prominent. Okay, I can agree with the shine wasn't as beauty and prominent, but like, I have recently seen some of the things that have been carved and put in and done in ancient China, and it is ridiculous the level of detail they were able to get onto tiny, tiny things. So, I mean, maybe they aren't as polished. I'll take that, and they're not really trying to be right now. But like, they were crazy sophisticated with their ornamentation back then. It's his hyperfixation. Yep. Liu only recognized something as a gemstone when it sparkled and shone, so he had assumed all these rounded jewels in the fish tank were just regular rocks. Just unusually colorful regular rocks. Wang Shi Gong who often came to look after the little carp, saw it build a pile out of the jewels that had been scattered in the tank, pick out a pigeon blood ruby. The little carp swung its tail vigorously, sending the pigeon blood ruby into the stack of jewels and knocking them all over. Yes, but Indian jewelers ate their lunch. Yeah. The corner of Wang Gong's lips twitched, watching the scene. These were the premium gemstones the Emperor had given the prince some time ago. His Highness had ordered the jewels to be made into spherical shapes because he assumed the little thing had taken a liking to round things. It appeared as though the little fish did indeed enjoy them. He even started playing with the noble consort's luminous pearl less once he had received the jewels that his Highness gave him. Liu had spent a long time just getting used to his new tank. By the time he realized it, there was less than half a day left in the getting along quest. Holy shit. Why did he start playing for real? Yep, he's a little too into the fish thing, and there's another sign. Liu hurriedly chucked away the jewel he was playing with and looked around for Prince Jing. The crystal fish tank was transparent enough that he no longer needed to jump up high in the air to see him. The prince was currently reading a book at his desk. The sunlight scattered through the window lattice, enveloping the beautiful youth in a gentle golden glow. Liu stared, dumbstruck. Before, whether he was in the porcelain fish tank or the tea bowl, he always had to look up to see Prince Jing. And by now, Liu was used to his cold expression. He had no idea that the same face could look so gentle and soft. Liu stared at Prince Jing blankly, feeling an inexplicable ache in his heart. In this world, the person he spent the most time with was Prince Jing. The time they'd spent together had been filled with happiness. In another few hours, his fish life was going to come to an end. Prince Jing would never know that his pet fish had been a person from another world. An absurd idea suddenly popped up in Liu's mind. Maybe he should just forget everything and use the transformation medicine. So what if he caused a little bit of chaos? He was human. It was so unfair that he had randomly transmigrated into a fish. It wasn't so unreasonable for him to want to say goodbye to this world as a human. Liu was about to enter the system as a fish who had nothing to lose when Prince Jing put down his book and approached the tank. Liu had probably stopped by the walls of the tank for too long enough that Prince Jing had taken notice while he was reading. Liu wagged his tail listlessly at the prince, waving goodbye to him for the last time. But Prince Jing misunderstood and thought the fish wanted to play again. Although it was easy to see the fish through the crystal tank, the tank was larger and taller, which made it much more difficult to put his hand in the water and play with the little carp the way he did before. Bit of a shame, Prince Jing thought. His hand itched to play with the fish, but had to settle for pressing against the walls of the crystal tank. Liu paused, then swam over slowly. He was currently a fish who was in a dangerously volatile mood. It wouldn't be easy to make him happy. He instinctively blew a bubble towards Prince Jing's fingertip. A corner of Prince Jing's lips quirked up as he slid his hand a little further. The little carp hurried to follow. Liu had already forgotten about his revenge on society as Prince Jing played with him. There's really not much time left. Fine. The prince was treating him so well, he shouldn't cause trouble for him. Separated by the crystal wall, the little carp could only rub longingly against the spot where Prince Jing's finger was. He spent his final 2 hours with the prince like this. User! Time is up, the system interrupted. Liu realized in a daze that he had already entered the fish scamming system. He wasn't quite sure what had happened to make him suddenly enter the system. He didn't turn into fishbone and fish ash before Prince Jing's eyes, right? Please don't be nervous, user. You are still alive, the system assured him. Still alive? That was good. Liu didn't get to relax for long before realizing something wasn't right. Shouldn't he have failed since he ran out of time? The system explained. The time limit for the task meant you had to use the entire duration of the countdown. Why didn't you say that earlier? You're messing with the poor fish again. I've already reminded the user to be patient, System told him. You needed to wait until the allotted amount of time had passed, at which point the system will determine whether or not you failed the quest. Liu thought back. The system did prompt him to be patient before, but who on earth would get such a vague hint? So, did I succeed? Liu asked unhappily. The system answered. Please look at the main quest. Following the system prompt, Liu went to check the getting along step, the priceless pet fish main quest. The countdown had been replaced with a little square that was flashing different colors. The system continued. This time, the criterion for success is how satisfied the tyrant was over the last few days. Green means success. Red means failure. Can you talk normally? Enough bullshit. What exactly is my result? The system suddenly stopped. The little square that kept continuously changing colors also stopped. If he failed, he would turn into fish bones and fish ash. Gathering his courage, Liu went to look at the final result. To be honest, he was quite confident. Although he'd caused a lot of trouble for the tyrant and taken advantage of him, the tyrant had grown quite fond of Liu. He probably wouldn't get red. Liu quickly glanced at it, only to see that the result the system had given him was multicolored. Liu's heart was shaking from top to bottom. What does multicolored mean? The system spoke. Congratulations, user, for completing Getting Along. The reward is heightened healing powers. Liu brushed aside the reward. His mind was fixated on one thing, wondering if the splendid colors meant a splendid job. It means he was very satisfied, the system said. Liu beamed. Was the prince very pleased with him? Ha 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 ha! Thank the heavens! Thank Prince Jing! The little carp trembled and exhaled loudly, relieved, before jumping high into the air. Liu exited the system and realized he was lying in Prince Jing's hand. Turned out that he had been in the middle of playing with Prince Jing when he entered the system. The stupid system hadn't taken care of anything for him, so he sank to the bottom without any warning, right in front of the prince. It had been a shocking sight, leaving Prince Jing to assume the fish must have fallen sick again. The servants waiting outside Prince Jing's room already had experience with this, since a similar thing had happened before. The fish had already gone stiff, but other than that, there didn't seem to be anything wrong with it. The servants just had to vaguely tell him that his fish was asleep. Prince Jing's face remained grim as he waited for the fish to wake up. As soon as Liu saw Prince Jing, he felt the corners of his eyes prickling. Prince Jing didn't know that the fish in his hands was actually a human, nor did he know that Liu had just gotten through a life-or-death situation. And yet, it was his love for him that had saved Liu. The little carp stared at Prince Jing's handsome face, emotions welling up inside his chest. Fish couldn't cry, and he couldn't speak. No matter whether Liu was happy or sad, as a fish, all he could do was swish his tail and blow bubbles. But Liu wasn't just any fish. If he felt excited, he had to show it in some way, and right now he wanted to show Prince Jing just how grateful he was. Liu thought about how animals like cats and dogs express their affection. There wouldn't be anything wrong with him nuzzling Prince Jing's face like that, too. Plus, Prince Jing was holding him in his hand right now. He wouldn't get a better opportunity than this. Liu did his best to straighten out his body, but fish were not the same as cats and dogs. Cats and dogs could stand up and lay their paws on their owner's shoulders, but no matter how tall Liu stood, his fins were still nowhere near long enough, and he couldn't reach anything. He just struggled uselessly for a while, then toppled back into Prince Jing's hand. Liu wasn't discouraged. He still had a powerful tail in his arsenal. As long as he aimed for Prince Jing's face, he was going to make it. He just had to remember not to use too much force. He wanted to nuzzle up to Prince Jing's cheek, not slap him in the face. He had to be gentle. This time, Liu didn't miscalculate the force required, but his sense of direction wasn't very good. He missed the mark and jumped too far to the side. Unfortunately, the little carp didn't notice at all. As he sprang forward, Prince Jing's face grew larger and larger. The little carp was secretly filled with joy. Without any regard for anything else, he leaned in with his mouth and randomly wiggled around. His sharp little fish mouth rubbed against something incredibly soft. Prince Jing's face feels so nice, he thought, but shouldn't cheeks be flat? Why does this feel kind of wavy and a little hot? He was rather impulsive. He has no impulse control whatsoever. Liu paused. No way. What was he rubbing against? Liu's eyes widened in shock as he realized his fish lips were pressed against Prince Jing's man lips. Prince Jing's dark, pitch-black pupils stared back at him unblinkingly. Once again, he'd made a mistake. Shuddering, the little carp slid down from the prince's lips. He never wanted to see the prince again. Prince Jing held the fish in one hand, then rubbed his lips, his mouth a little sore thanks to the fish bumping into it. Was the little fish up to no good again? You could already picture the fish slipping into a deflated state again for the next few days. Liu, who had finally completed a small step in the main quest, entered an even deeper state of self-reflection than before. He was just in the middle of preparing a second round of apology fish food to the prince when the fish scamming system dropped another bomb on him out of the blue. Hello, user! The fourth step of the main quest, Tyrant's priceless pet fish, share a bed with the Tyrant, has already begun. Please complete the quest carefully. Were his gifts for Prince Jing not enough for the system? Now he had to share a bed with the Tyrant? Fish couldn't even leave the water. How on earth was he supposed to sleep with a human? But the system never answered him. That was what made it a fish scamming system. All right, I'm going to read 2 more and then we're going to be done. Liu analyzed all the quests he'd done so far. The fish scamming system's title. Chapter 15. The fish wants to get in bed. Liu analyzed all the quests he'd done so far. The fish scamming system's titles had been all a little clickbaity. The quests weren't hard to do, so long as he was able to dispel the clouds and see what the quest was really asking. Interacting and getting along just meant daily interactions with Prince Jing. Clear Bright Pearl might have looked challenging at first glance, but there was no specific requirements on how it needed to be completed. Touching the luminous pearl was all he needed to succeed. He just got unlucky and ran into a string of stupid accidents in the process. By that logic, he shouldn't even have to think too hard about sharing a bed. As long as he was in the same bed as Prince Jing, using the same pillow, it would probably be all right. The system didn't even say they had to share a blanket, nor did it mention actually sleeping. There was plenty of wiggle room there. Liu thought about it for a moment and concluded perhaps it was only the title of his quest that was a little insane. It should be doable. His confidence received an enormous boost when he repeated his analysis to the system, and all it said was, "The user just has to complete the quest." Very good. It didn't deny me outright, so it must be okay. Sure, buddy. Now, all he had to figure out was how to get into the same bed as Prince Jing and share a pillow. Obviously, he would have to do it when Prince Jing was sleeping. Fish couldn't leave the water. Even if they could stay out of water for a short while, a fish had to stay wet. Could a sopping wet fish share a bed with Prince Jing? Of course not. Even if he somehow managed it, Prince Jing would never forgive him. Dirtying his owner's bed was probably a much more reprehensible crime than taking advantage of his owner. This left Liu with no other choice but to complete the task while Prince Jing was sleeping, so he wouldn't know. And so the task had now changed into a plan to sneak into Prince Jing's bed while he was asleep and wiggle around on his pillow. The crystal fish tank was quite a distance away from Prince Jing's bed. He would have to aim carefully for this jump, and he'd still have to find some way to return to the tank once he'd touched the pillow. This wasn't a normal level of difficulty. Last time, the countdown kept him in a state of fear, but there was no time limit this time. He could practice a few times in preparation. When no one was around, Liu secretly started practicing his jumping from the crystal fish tank to the bed. The first time, as expected, he fell onto the floor. He was still several feet away from Prince Jing's bed. He had braced himself for it to hurt, but no pain came. The award for getting along came to mind. Perhaps his physical fitness had also gone up. Since falling didn't hurt him, he could give it a couple more tries. Wait, he didn't have to jump over in one leap. He could attempt a triple jump. Liu jumped towards his destination once more, each hop getting him one step closer to Prince Jing's bed. Jumping several times wasn't hard. The little carp was a little exhilarated, but he didn't manage to get to Prince Jing's bed before he wasn't able to take it anymore and was forced to scamper back. Once he was back in the fish tank, Liu realized that there was a bunch of puddles, the cloud-patterned floor tiles. He didn't know what to do about that. It seemed like jumping back and forth posed a problem. There was also the noisy issue of his tail slapping against the floor. If he thought that was loud, wouldn't it be much more frightening to hear it in the middle of the night? What if he woke up Prince Jing? It's too difficult to complete this mission as a fish, Liu lamented. If he were human, none of this would have to be so difficult. Did that mean he had to change back into a human to complete the task? Liu was a little hesitant. He did have the transformation medicine, and this task, which was so difficult for a fish, would be a piece of cake to a human. But he had wanted to spend those 2 hours doing something meaningful, not just forced to complete another quest on a time limit. The fish scamming system had said that there was only one transformation elixir. Completing the main quest would turn him back into a human too, but there's no knowing how long that would take. Did he really have to use the medicine now? What if there was a quest later that required him to be human? Making this decision was even harder than jumping around. Liu decided to try a few more times as a fish. He hadn't tried any other tactics yet, after all. Perhaps the heavens decided to help him out this time. Wang Shi noticed the puddles the little carp had left all over the floor and thought it was funny. Chuckling, he told Prince Jing, "Your Highness, it seems the little thing likes to take walks." This was how Prince Jing found out this fish had left his tank. Prince Jing had already seen the little carp chasing after the luminous pearl on Qianxing Palace's golden floor tiles. Taking a walk was nothing in comparison. But even such a large fish tank couldn't contain him. Prince Jing's gaze on the little carp was somewhat complicated. Liu feigned innocence, blowing bubbles. Master, it's not that I like taking walks. I just want to jump into your bed. Prince Jing's response to this development delighted Liu. He really indulged his pet fish. He ordered Wang Shi to arrange a few tea bowls filled with clear water on the floor, in case the fish jumped out and needed water halfway. Prince Jing had no problem with the fish taking walks. He just didn't want to return home to a fish corpse. Valid point. As soon as the master's orders came down, the servants had to go out of their way to figure out where to put the tea bowls. There had to be some strategic thought behind the bowl's placement, so the little carp could use them, but also so Prince Jing wouldn't step in them. Wang Shi studied it for quite some time and consulted Prince Jing as well. The tea bowls were placed in areas that the prince didn't frequent, with most of them gathered around the fish tank. One of them just happened to be on the way to Prince Jing's bed. The little carp wiggled gleefully. He didn't expect happiness to arrive this soon. His tyrant owner just opened up a cheat for him. Wang Shi even switched out the carpet in the room for a water-absorbent one in case the little carp got the floor wet from jumping around. This really was a godsend. Liu had been worried that he'd leave a wet mark on the pillow, but he had nothing to fear with this new carpet. The day the carpet was laid out, Liu returned the water in his inventory back to the fish tank for the time being, surreptitiously stole a piece of carpet to put in his inventory instead. This way, he could use the carpet as a cushion whenever he wanted, so he didn't have to worry about dirtying the pillow anymore. All the preparations were complete. Now Liu just needed to wait until the prince was sound asleep to make his move, so they wouldn't be woken up by all the tail slapping. I feel like he'd be woken up no matter how softly you tried to do this, just because I imagine he's probably a light sleeper due to all the palace intrigue. Let's be real. Prince Jing returned very late that night. Liu heard the door, but the prince didn't order anyone to light the lanterns after he'd entered. Instead, he felt his way to the bed and slipped under the covers, knocking over a few of the tea bowls on the ground in the process. Liu chuckled. Did Prince Jing get drunk somewhere? Drunk was good. It'd be easier for him to complete this task. Liu waited for a while, long after the bed had gone quiet. He was already familiar with the routine, and with a few hops, he arrived at the head of the bed. He whipped out the water-absorbing cushion, put it on the bed, and with a light bounce, landed on the cushion. Prince Jing had his back turned towards him, his head shrouded by a blanket. He was very still, with half of his jade pillow peeking out. Liu couldn't have asked for a better scenario. As an extra precaution, he touched the jade pillow with his fin, being careful to not get it wet so Prince Jing wouldn't notice the next day. Sharing a bed should be complete. With all of that taken care of, he waited for the system's prompt. But nothing happened. Liu was a little flustered and very confused. What had gone wrong? Liu was on the verge of climbing completely on top of the jade pillow, or, if that didn't work, burrow into the blanket. He was already very close to the person on the bed when he suddenly smelled a light fragrance. Liu froze. Since when did Prince Jing start using women's perfumes? Last time, when he pecked Prince Jing on the lips, Liu was sure he hadn't smelled such a cloyingly sweet scent. At the same time, the person on the bed flipped over and stared at Liu with dazzlingly luminous eyes. Liu got a good look at this person's appearance in the moonlight filtering through the window lattice. It wasn't Prince Jing. It was a beautiful woman. No wonder the main quest didn't update. It wasn't Prince Jing on the bed at all. Startled, Liu fell backwards and slid off the jade pillow. The unfamiliar woman was shocked as well. She raised her hand, tucked under the blanket, as if she was about to retrieve something, but when she realized it was just a fish, she scoffed lightly, then lay back down under the blanket with one pale shoulder sticking out. Liu froze. The moment the woman had lifted her hand, Liu had seen what she had grabbed. It was a blade, and one so shiny that Liu was almost blinded. This was... At first, when he had realized it was a woman in a state of undress in Prince Jing's bedroom, he thought it was just some servant who had wanted to seduce Prince Jing to climb the social ladder. But this woman had hidden a knife underneath the blanket. That complicated matters. She wasn't here to climb any ladder. She was likely a female assassin trying to take Prince Jing's life. Dun, dun, dun! No wonder this person knocked over a few tea bowls. Prince Jing would never have done that. Liu curled up in the blanket, doing his best to make himself inconspicuous to the assassin. At the same time, he was confused. In the book, Jingtai Hall was described as being like a fortress. So how did this woman skirt around its guards and break into Prince Jing's bedroom? Before he could rack his brains further, Wang Shi's voice could be heard faintly from outside the door calling out, "Your Highness!" Prince Jing was about to come in. Liu panicked. How could he let Prince Jing know that there was an assassin on the bed? Oh, right. This woman wasn't dressed properly. She likely wouldn't kill him right off the bat. Prince Jing also knew martial arts, and he had servants too, so she would definitely wait until his guard was down. As long as she didn't go for the kill immediately. The door was pushed open lightly. Liu and the assassin both held their breaths. Wang Shi lit the candles. Prince Jing glanced inside the room and immediately caught sight of the shape lying on his bed. How dare you! As soon as Wang Gonggong saw that there was someone else here, he was livid. Who dared crawl into His Highness's bed? The woman on the bed acted as though she was deaf. She sat up, still wrapped up in the blanket, and revealed her beautiful visage. She let out a seductive laugh, her voice ringing like silver bells. The sweeter her laugh sounded, the colder Liu felt. He desperately prayed in his heart for Prince Jing not to be bewitched by this woman. Wang Shi was about to rush forward and drag the woman away when Prince Jing stopped Wang Shi mid-step, ordering him to stand to the side. The woman laughed smugly. Your Highness likes me. Prince Jing approached, face completely devoid of expression. He glanced at the woman, while Liu watched nervously, desperately hoping that he would throw the woman out. But to his horror, Prince Jing raised a hand to caress the woman's face. The woman smiled as she leaned into his touch. Although the prince's fingers were so cold that they made her shiver, she knew he had fallen for her hook, line, and sinker. Stupid Prince Jing! There was obviously something wrong with this woman. Liu was so furious that he was about to jump up to reveal himself to Prince Jing, when things suddenly took a turn. A cold light flashed through Prince Jing's eyes, and quick as lightning, he wrapped his hands around the woman's throat. Prince Jing might not have been able to speak, but he didn't need to. Anyone who dared enter his room always had an ulterior motive. There was only one way this would end for them: death. The woman didn't expect him to strike so swiftly when everything had been fine just a moment ago. Ignoring the burning pain in her throat, she reached into the blanket, scrabbling for the knife that she had hidden in a desperate bid to save herself. But something inside the blanket bit her harshly. Startled, she lost her focus, and before she could scream, Prince Jing pierced through her chest with a sword. She stared down at the hole in her chest in shock, and then looked back up at Prince Jing's impassive face. She didn't even get a chance to say what her owner sent her to say. She thought the prince would at least spare her life so he could question her. But the prince didn't care at all. He just wanted her dead. Prince Jing twisted his sword viciously, and the assassin slowly fell over. He pulled out his sword and glanced at the blood. Hang on, there's a picture, but I'll finish this chapter then show you. In disgust, Wang Shi heard the commotion and ran in, with a group of people following closely behind. Only to see the woman on the floor. He sneered. She must have had a death wish. Prince Jing recalled seeing the woman searching for something in the blanket, but she had let go for some reason. Fingering she had hidden something in the blanket, he flicked over the blanket and found his fish curled up, trembling. What was going on? Prince Jing reached out to pick up the fish, but the little carp, who normally loved to curl its tail around his finger, flinched away in fear. All right, so here's the picture. He's very angry. All right. We will read one more chapter and then it is all done for tonight, and I will see you next weekend. Okay. Chapter 16. Don't be afraid, fish. Actually, water first, then this. Poor Liu. All right. Don't be afraid, fish. Prince Jing tried to extend a hand to the little carp again. Liu still flinched away. Liu was terrified. This was a completely different feeling from his fear of being turned into fish bones and fish ash. He had just witnessed Prince Jing kill that woman right in front of him. The bloodshed was terrifying. He knew Prince Jing had killed the assassin out of self-preservation. He was also aware that even if Prince Jing hadn't killed her, there was no way for her to escape execution after attempting to murder a prince. I like how the book handles Liu not being accustomed to the violence of the time period. Yeah, he was just a normal person from modern society, and all of a sudden he's like, oh my god, he just murdered a person in front of me. Oh my god. But Liu was born and raised in an era of peace. He had never seen such bloody violence, and this shocking scene of slaughter had come out of nowhere. He was not mentally prepared for it at all. This was all too much for him. When Prince Jing was with him, he was usually quiet and peaceful. Could even be called a little warm at times. Though Liu always called him Tyrant, he had never really understood the meaning behind those words as deeply as he did today. With just a glance, Prince Jing had passed judgment on whether the other person should live or die. His brow didn't even twitch when he took her life. The thought process of the rulers of the past was completely different from what Liu was taught in school. It felt as if Prince Jing, with his cruel aura suddenly revealed, was a stranger to him. Liu feared this Prince Jing. What would happen when he finished his quest and became human again? He thought this in terror. Would the prince also cut him down with a single strike of his sword? Definitely. To Prince Jing, what would the difference be between him and the assassin? They were both ants that dared to trespass on his territory. His thoughts inevitably trickled back to the dead woman next to him, and he couldn't stop trembling. Prince Jing saw the little carp shaking uncontrollably and moved to touch his head instead. Liu knew he was Prince Jing's pet fish and shouldn't avoid his touch, but no matter how he tried to convince himself, every instinct was screaming at him to fear Prince Jing. He kept thinking Prince Jing reeked of blood. It was too much for him to take, which only made it harder to forget. After a few failed attempts, Prince Jing could see the fish was rejecting him. What was wrong with the fish? Prince Jing couldn't figure it out, but he knew that fish couldn't be out of water for too long. Its fins were already starting to dry out. Prince Jing shot Wang Shi a look, then turned back to the little carp. The ever-attentive Wang Gonggong immediately said, "Please don't worry, Your Highness. This old servant will take care of the little thing." Wang Shi hurried to the edge of the bed. Liu released the breath he had been holding. He didn't feel any aversion to Wang Shi, and he allowed the servant to pick him up gently and put him back in the crystal fish tank. Liu felt much better in the water. He turned around to look at Prince Jing. The prince's frigid eyes bore holes into him. It scared the little carp so badly that he dove inside the ornamental mountain to hide. By now, Prince Jing had noticed that the little carp tolerated Wang Shi's touch, but not his own. His gaze darkened a little. This wasn't the first time the little carp had avoided him, but the other times it had been after the fish had done things like bite him or bump into him. He knew his fish was special, with some unusually human reactions to things. So what had happened this time to cause this? Prince Jing felt annoyed for some inscrutable reason. He reflected on what he had done that was different from Wang Shi. And he figured it out pretty quickly. Prince Jing looked down at his sword. He had taken care of the assassin just now. Could it be the fish was afraid because it could smell blood on him? The blood had never actually touched Prince Jing, but he still laid down his sword and went to wash up. He purposely changed into a set of clean white robes, ordering a servant to burn the sullied ones. After he cleaned up, Prince Jing went to visit the little carp, but to no avail. Liu still shied away from him. As he watched from the side, Liu was a little touched to see the tyrant's willingness to change his clothes for his sake. He felt he was overreacting, but it wasn't easy getting over the fear of someone or something. Even though he could see Prince Jing's obvious displeasure, Liu couldn't control his reaction. Prince Jing pursed his lips, pacing before the crystal fish tank. He finally stopped, reaching in with one long arm and scooped out the fish that had been put into the tank just minutes ago. Liu thought the prince must have completely lost his patience and struggled frantically. Gazing at the fish calmly, Prince Jing brought over a flower petal-shaped tea bowl and put the fish inside. Oh God, was he going to dispose of him now? All of Liu's hope evaporated instantly. But Prince Jing surprised him by doing something unthinkable. He placed the fish by his pillow. Liu didn't have a single idea what was going on. The mess on the bed and the blood on the floor had already been cleaned up, leaving no trace of what had just happened. But Liu knew that even though there was nothing left to see, it didn't mean it never happened. The murderous intent that had instantly appeared on Prince Jing's face, the decisive way he had stabbed his sword into the assassin's chest, it was all still burned into his memory. But more than that, he was afraid Prince Jing would treat him like that one day. Prince Jing observed him for a while, brushing his head with his finger. Liu lowered his head fearfully, his body trembling. Prince Jing gently knocked on his head, then lay down next to the tea bowl. Liu was stunned. Prince Jing wanted Liu next to him, even while he slept. Wait, isn't this sharing a bed? Liu felt a rush of excitement at the revelation. His main quest could still be salvaged at a time like this. But Liu's heart was a mess. Of course he wanted to complete the quest, but there was still his terror of Prince Jing. These two emotions were locked in fierce combat with each other, but in the end, the thought of completing the quest was much too tempting and helped to dilute some of his fear. Liu stretched out his tail, the tip creeping carefully along the edge of the jade pillow. Sharing a bed was only half the quest. The other half was to share a pillow. Armed with his experience with the previous quest, he was sure he would succeed as long as he touched the jade pillow. This time, the Prince Jing next to him was the real deal. As soon as his tail brushed against the jade pillow, the system very clearly notified him that he had completed the step, share a bed. But Liu felt no joy from completing the mission. He was right next to Prince Jing, and when he looked up, his eyes met Prince Jing's. It seems like his gaze could see through everything. The little carp's breath stuttered, his tail shook, and he shrank back, hiding his face in the water. If he was discovered, would the tyrant kill him? Liu couldn't help thinking back to the female assassin covered in blood. He felt so restless he wanted to bite. He opened his mouth randomly and suddenly bit down on Prince Jing's finger. He screwed up again. Liu felt his eyes filling up with imaginary tears that cascaded down his face. How was he supposed to know Prince Jing had reached over again? Prince Jing's finger was still in Liu's mouth. Liu tearfully looked at Prince Jing. Prince Jing observed him, quietly letting him bite. Liu spat the finger out. Sob, not like this. All he wanted to do was get closer to the tyrant who doted on him. Prince Jing saw Liu let go and didn't even get mad at him. On the contrary, he rubbed Liu's head, pushed the jade pillow towards him, and closed his eyes and went to sleep. What was Prince Jing doing? Liu's the sob fish. Yeah, he really is. Liu was exhausted as well, but he was still too scared to sleep, and even more afraid to enter the system right next to the prince. The tea bowl was too small, making him feel like he was trapped on the bed. He was so frustrated. Before tonight, it would have been laughable for a mere tea bowl to contain him, and he would have jumped out without a second thought. But that was back when he was too naive to realize he was tickling the head of a tiger. It's like his catchphrase. It really has become it, yes. Liu lay there quietly, feeling Prince Jing's breathing slowly even out. For more than an hour, the prince did not move. He was probably fast asleep. Liu was just about to enter the system to check on his quest when Prince Jing suddenly shifted to face him. Liu immediately scrambled back in case Prince Jing flattened him into a fish cake. It was a good thing that Prince Jing had good sleeping etiquette and always slept very properly on one side of the pillow. Seeing that the prince was truly asleep, Liu mustered up his courage to approach. Prince Jing's sleeping face was close enough for Liu to touch. The thick lashes that fanned over his frosty eyes made him seem harmless like this. The little carp's racing heart didn't feel so panicked anymore. Prince Jing wasn't too scary when he was asleep. But of course, he would look vicious in their sleep. Besides, he couldn't forget how quickly Prince Jing could change gears, going from calm to murderous at the drop of a hat. Liu suddenly froze. That was right. They were both Prince Jing. The Prince Jing who killed the assassin mercilessly, and the Prince Jing who was gentle and kind to him, were one and the same before him. Liu had always said people were multifaceted. Well, this was Prince Jing being multifaceted. Although he'd never gotten to know Prince Jing's murderous side before, his ruthlessness didn't vanish just because Liu didn't see it. The prince's gentleness towards him and his heartlessness towards others existed simultaneously. Whether Liu feared him or lived in ignorance, Prince Jing was Prince Jing. He had never changed. Liu couldn't start doubting the prince's kindness to him just because he had killed an assassin. If he really wanted to lay it all out, he had offended Prince Jing countless times. If the prince had any desire to hurt him, he would have done it ages ago, right? After thinking all of this and reaching this epiphany, Liu felt a lot better. Looking back at Prince Jing, who was sleeping quietly on the other side of the jade pillow, Liu's perspective did a 180. He awkwardly wondered if Prince Jing had pushed the pillow towards him before he fell asleep because he thought Liu wanted it. It was very possible. Didn't he also place tea bowls all over the floor for him and change his clothes just to get rid of all the evidence of the murder? He hadn't even been angry when the little carp bit him. Prince Jing really was very good to his fish. Liu shouldn't fear and distrust him over a little shock. A little murder doesn't hurt anybody, right? Perhaps he should make up with Prince Jing tomorrow. Having suffered such a big shock and having thought until his brain was smoking, the little carp picked a spot closest to Prince Jing in his tea bowl, yawned, and quickly slipped into dreamland. Quests! Those could wait until after he woke up. When he woke up the next morning, Prince Jing noticed the little carp huddled up next to him. The tea bowl was flipped over on its side and had left a huge wet patch on his clothes. Prince Jing moved his hand closer, and the fish, half asleep, scooted over to nuzzle into it. Fireworks exploded in Prince Jing's heart. He didn't know why this fish's attitude towards him had gone from high to low and then back to high. All he knew was that putting the fish closer to him was quite effective. The Emperor was beside himself with fury when he learned that an assassin had managed to infiltrate Jingtai Hall. After confirming that the prince was fine, every strand of hair on his head intact, he commanded the palace guards to conduct a thorough investigation. They had to give Prince Jing an explanation one way or another. The Emperor felt guilty that Prince Jing had almost gotten killed. Prince Jing originally lived outside the palace, and the only reason he had come to live at the palace for a while was because the Emperor summoned him for the noble consort's birthday. But this had only led to more suffering for Prince Jing. Alongside his rewards, the Emperor also ordered the prince to return to his manor to rest. At long last, Prince Jing could finally leave the palace. After receiving the royal edict, the prince made no delay. He immediately ordered Wang Shi to pack everything up. In theory, both Prince Jing Manor and Jingtai Hall were Prince Jing's dwellings, so both places had servants. Prince Jing had come and gone from the palace many times now, so there wasn't much for him to pack. This time, however, there was the addition of a ridiculously pretentious fish tank. Half of the palace came to watch the commotion. People had heard the ill-tempered Prince Jing had gotten a new pet fish, and it seemed as though the fish had an even higher status than the noble consort's cat. The fish had even been approved of by the Emperor, who had gifted the tank himself. This must be a precious breed of fish indeed. The crowd saw 8 people carrying a crystal fish tank, the bottom laden with jewels. At the top, a small grayish carp was blowing, bubbling. The crowd of servants was stunned. And that is the end of chapter 16 and where we're going to stop tonight. I had a great time. It was really a lot of fun kind of cosplay chatting at the beginning with everyone. And again, I'll say if you want to or feel comfortable sharing some pictures with me over on Blue Sky, it's just Rosebud Reads. Good night, Esper Lady. I'm glad you had fun. Bye, Cookielicious. Thank you for coming to the stream. I will be continuing on Tuesday. It'll probably be around the same length. It might be a little shorter. I might shorten it up, maybe 2 chapters. Because this got a little long. Yeah, I might shorten it a little bit. But yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad you guys enjoyed, and thank you all for coming. And whoever's watching later, I hope you enjoyed too. I'm going to include a little thing at the beginning, so I'll figure out how to do the time things. Thank you, Annika. I'm glad you had fun. But yeah, I will hopefully see you all Tuesday at 8 CST for the next stream. Until then, have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Good night.